do I do a proxy vote? And I said, because it's a specific motion, it won't change at the meeting.
Yeah.
You can do a proxy vote specific, but if you didn't receive it, you didn't receive it.
No, I did not. No. Okay. So it passes, and this time I'll close the public hearing. That's it. That's it for that. Let me get the correspondence out, and then I will open the school board meeting as soon as Oscar's ready. Do I have our minutes? Oh, I do. Okay, good. Okay.
Now that we're live, do you want to just quickly summarize the public hearing?
Oh, sure. So, welcome to the November 2nd school board meeting. We just finished a public hearing. Litchfield Cable was not here to record it, but offering a summary of what we just approved, which was to accept and expend grant funds in the amount of $105,161 for radios at all 3 schools and a repeater at both Campbell and LMS. So that was, we did vote to accept those funds. They're 100%, they cover 100% of the costs of those items for safety. So, thank you.
Thank you.
So I would like to bring the meeting to order, and we'll do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. So we do have 2 members that are going to be coming later. You have me tonight for the time being. Do we have any revisions to the agenda?
There are a couple marked in red, just updated links, but no other revisions.
Did the board,
Okay.
would the board like an
Yep.
overview of the financial spreadsheet that I circulated last night? Would you like that tonight in preparation for tomorrow, or would you want to hold off until tomorrow?
Personally, I would love it tonight, but under maybe school board comments, as long as all 5 of us are here.
Fine.
How
I
do you
would hate
feel?
for you to have to do it again.
Yeah,
when
no, I
this-
agree, everyone should be present.
Yeah.
Alright.
Does
So
that work for you?
let's add that to the
Okay.
agenda, if you don't mind.
Sure. Can we add it under school
At the end of the
board
agenda is
comments?
fine.
Okay.
Yep.
And as long as we're not at 10 o'clock, you know what I mean? As long as we're not like super late. But I definitely would like to have, I'd love to hear your thoughts on that and a summarized version of that. Thank you. Thank you for doing that. So we will move on to the summary of non-public actions from October 5th, 2022. Mrs. Ames made a motion to approve the non-public minutes of October 5th, 2022. Mr. Cutter seconded. The motion carried 5-0. And now we're on to presentations and recognitions, and we have an E3 award to give out. And bonus points if anybody knows what E3 means.
I don't, but I'm hoping we get the
Yay.
lowdown.
I know, it's on here.
Is it empowering excellence in education?
Yes.
You win.
I win. What do I win?
Do I win an E3 award?
All right. Do you want to?
Yeah, I can do
go
that. So,
over it? Okay.
Thomas, if you want to come up for a second, let me just introduce, I'm not sure the board necessarily knows Thomas. So Thomas is our nighttime lead at the middle school. And I first met Thomas when he was serving at the high school because he was on second shift there, and I'm often there at second shift. So I got to know Thomas as he was in servicing the SAU office. But if you saw in the news, Thomas recently participated in the marathon out in Chicago. Had a record of some sort. Thomas, tell us exactly what the record is so I don't goof it up.
It's a world record for a person with developmental disability. Excuse me, I'm stumbling my words
You're
a little
good.
bit.
Take your time.
But yeah, I set a world record in that division.
Wow.
Good for you.
And so, world record holder,
Amazing.
working here. And I just thought, he really is an inspiration to the students. I mean, we have cross-country teams, we have, track teams and so forth, and we have a world record holder among us. best. And when I first got to know Thomas and was talking with him, he was on, at that point in time, he was on achieving the personal best, right? Getting his own personal record. But boy, it really took off, and it really took fire. And at one point, the board should know that Thomas left us. He was not at the high school any longer, and he went back into the security industry and decided that wasn't where he wanted to be. He wanted to be back working in schools. So I was so delighted when I saw Thomas's name come across my desk and that he was joining us. And then there's one other little tidbit that I'll just state as we're here is that Thomas's dad now is also with us, right? So we have two Thomas Canteras working in the district. And so he's now at the high school. And again, we're just happy that the family is helping us out and keeping us rolling. So
Thank you
Thomas,
so
we wanted to recognize you with this award. And so there's a nice little certificate that goes with it for the outstanding achievement. And then this is the coveted E3 pin, which there aren't too many of these out there, right? And so that's a pin that we're awarding to you also, so you can have that and wear that proudly.
Oh, thanks.
Congratulations.
Thanks, Thomas.
Oh, yes, please.
Oh, yeah.
Congratulations.
Very good.
Congratulations, Thomas.
Congratulations.
Thomas, anything you want to say regarding all of this and the journey that you've been on?
Oh, well, first of all, thanks for this award. I very much appreciate it. I'm a little embarrassed to admit this, but when I first saw the email about coming to get an award and it said E3 award on the email, I was wondering, I'm getting an award, I don't even know what it is at first.
It's okay, we didn't either, right?
Okay.
When I heard that, I was like, oh, thank goodness.
Yeah.
We'll have to make sure it's on the new website, right?
That's right.
Define it and
Right.
pictures.
Yeah, when I researched it, I knew it had some part of excellent education in it, so I was like, oh, that's really nice. So, yeah, this has been a long journey, and it's been a 10-year journey, because I started in 2012, but before that, it all started when I graduated high school. A few months after, I gained a lot of weight. I was 256 pounds, and I lost 80 pounds in a year and a half, just training for skiing. Back then I was a competitive downhill skier, and I fell in love with running after losing all that weight, and then just got tired of the cold after losing the weight, so I just stuck with running, and marathons came about a year or so later, watching the people do the Boston Marathon TV, and someday I said, I want to do that. And I put my mind to it. I followed the train schedule online and tried that, and I wanted to qualify in my first attempt, and my first marathon I didn't finish, but with a slight encouragement from home, a month later I bounced back and did another marathon, fell short of qualifying, but I still ran through my Gate City Strider Club. But I've been hooked on marathons pretty much ever since. I've gone through bumps and curves through it all, but with the right coaching down the road and following the schedule, just bettering my tempos and keeping my long runs intense, it led to times I couldn't imagine. That 2:36 was a surprise to me in Chicago. I just felt really good that day. I trained well and went out and had a great day, and I'm doing Boston again this coming April, and I'm hoping to set another personal best.
I think that
That's
really speaks to
phenomenal.
your willingness to take on hard work and your commitment to reach your goals. And I think that's an asset for us in the district too. We're lucky to have someone like you on our staff.
And one thing that can apply even to the kids in school that has really done so much for me, as little as it is, even the slightest good encouragement, that's what kept me going. About a few years ago, I wanted to quit marathons because I was working long hours in security. I was working 4 10.5-hour shifts. So the 2 days I had to fit in running was really time consuming considering my hours. But I had a couple of people who gave me the slight encouragement just to stay with it. And that tiny bit of encouragement just kept me going, and I'm accomplishing things I couldn't imagine because of it. So that's what really kept me going, was just that tiny bit. And I feel like if every kid just had that little bit of encouragement that they could be better, I think that's all it will take. Yeah. It's just applying to it and sticking to it, and you're accomplishing things you didn't think you could possibly do down the road.
Yeah, it's a great
Well said.
lesson to learn.
Congratulations.
Awesome.
Very
Thomas, thanks again.
inspirational.
Congratulations.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thanks, Thomas.
little bit of encouragement. We all need it,
Great.
I've gotta
so
get another,
that's phenomenal.
Jen's gotta sign them up to talk to the middle schoolers next.
Yeah, yeah.
Yes.
Oh, that's great.
awesome.
All right, so at this point, I'd like to welcome Mary Widman, our curriculum director. Hello.
Mary, do you want me to project?
I didn't, I have a link to project, but I
Okay.
need to project it.
Yeah,
I don't
perfect.
know where
Yep,
the
right,
project
I
is.
think it's this one. Yep.
But not yet. Good evening.
Good evening.
Just wanted to start with my general update, which is linked into the agenda. In terms of professional learning, we had our first professional learning committee meeting a couple weeks ago. We're working as a team to really gather building data on the building needs. But also one of the pieces of feedback that I'm starting to collect the data on so that we have it to bring to you guys as we move forward is the order of the days. That the feedback from the professional development committee was really that by and large the teachers loved having the first day in the classrooms as opposed to the other way around. So I want to get a survey out so that we get some concrete data on that to be able to present, but that is a work in process. We also have talked, we have overlapping members with our competency-based leadership groups. So our PD committee is going to start working closely with our competency-based leadership group as we are, really working with staff and students on moving our work forward. Grading and reporting met. It was a pretty low-key meeting. We really just looked to get some goals set for the year. Our big goal is to revise our rubric descriptors for the academic rubrics. Currently, we have descriptors for our work study practice rubrics. There's been some conversation about whether or not those are appropriate for our academic rubrics as well. So that is our main task this year. But the majority of our conversation was around not only the PD for staff, but educating the parents in the community and how are we going to go about that as we are developing. And again, similar conversation in our competency-based leadership group. PERC met, and I don't know, I know this is on the agenda later, but I also have it linked in here. I don't know if you want me to share this book now. Okay.
It's linked in with your.
It's both, yeah. So we had our first PERC meeting. We had 2 books come forward, one that we were looking for more information on, but the other one is the book that you'll see here, Sold on a Monday. It is being requested by our 10th grade Worldlit, sorry. But they are looking specifically this as a individual read, a small group read, not a whole class read. In terms of it aligns with their theme. I gotta open it. I thought I had it open, sorry. Oh, I did.
American Lit, discrimination.
It is American
Honors
Lit,
American
sorry.
Lit, yeah.
I had a couple of them and they were the 2 different,
Yeah,
so
yeah.
I wasn't sure which was which. So Honors American Lit, Discrimination and Mercy is the unit that it would be tied to. And again, it's to be a read for a small group of students. In looking at
And the
Controver-
students get to choose which book they want, so this would
That
be
is the
added to the
intent.
kind of the repertoire of books.
Yeah, and we're really, the English department is really looking to expand not only the choices that we're giving kids to read, but the age of the
Decades.
choices
More
that we are giving them to
contemporary.
read. We have, our repertoire at this point is still a very traditional read, and I think that's great. I think we need those opportunities for kids, but the more we can bring in some more modern literature, I think that's also appropriate. So any questions on this? It did go through PERC. PERC unanimously supported the use of this book. There were the sensitive material we felt was not really an issue on this. It does take place in the Great Depression, but she said it's not really graphic, and there is some violence when they're trying to rescue the kids from abusive foster parents.
And so you need a motion?
I need a motion.
Make a motion to approve Sold on a Monday by Christina McMorris as a, resource to be used in our English department.
I'll second that. Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed, or I don't even need to say that, because there's only 3 of us here. Any opposed or abstain? 300. Okay.
Excellent, thank you. And just so you guys know, our next meeting, we are slated to have a pretty heavy agenda for perks. So I will be back at one of the December meetings to bring forward new course proposals,
Great.
as well as some competencies and hopefully some curriculum units, if I can get them proofread. The only other thing I wanted to touch on was assessment and data. The statewide testing data has been released. It was released about a week and a half ago. We have been working on getting it in a format that is manageable for us to be able to analyze. So that will be coming. You've heard our own school-based analysis, but we'll have the data compared to our
This is for the
cohort.
SAS.
The SAS.
Yeah.
It's actually SAS as well as SAT on the school day. So that will be coming. It's supposed to be up on the iPortal on the website, I believe. They just came out with the mid-December, end of December?
The DOE website?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, so we've completed our I'm Ready benchmarking, and as you can see by the numbers, LMS is really digging into the personalized platform, and GMS is just starting to get the kids on it. So that is what I have for my general report.
Are we expecting the numbers on the personalized pathways?
Oh, yes,
to
we are.
Increase?
I know by the end of last year, LMS was at like 95%.
Oh, wow. I specifically meant GMS, just,
GMS, that is a work in progress.
Yeah.
Yes. And I'm happy to see the numbers higher in reading, because we are looking, as, to get more support there and get them, I don't want to say out of the program, but to get them using additional resources.
Yeah.
So, but that number I expect to see come up significantly by
Okay.
the time I report on this
great.
next round.
Has the Power School upgrade happened? I know there was supposed to be one over the summer. I just hadn't heard. So it
Yeah.
happened. What's different in it?
Not much.
Okay.
There's very little that on the parental side of it. There's very little. It was more on the teacher side of it. So the sort of synopsis version is there was a overlay on the teacher side that helped them with organization and how to enter in the grades. That went away. So it's just on their end, it looks a little bit different. They've gotten used to how it's entered. I think there's still the one thing that I know there has been, and since we are now live, I'll address it. I know that there has been some concern that you're not seeing overall assignment scores necessarily, depending on how they're being entered. And I know this is uncomfortable, but that's really actually probably better, because those assignment scores do not weigh into the overall grades.
Formatives, you mean?
No, the summative, overall scores. So it's the competency scores. So if you look at an assignment and it says it's blank,
Oh,
you have to click onto the competency scores and you can see how they scored on those competencies. But that average to an assignment score does not impact the overall average. It's the competency scores that impact the overall average. So, I
Should be
know.
more clear.
Yeah, it should actually help eliminate some of the, I don't understand why my child is not yet met for this course when they got a B on their summative. Well, they got a B, but they got 100 on one of the competencies and a 52 on the other one. So that my math was off on that, but you
Get
you
the
know.
gist.
So right there you have, this will eliminate some of that because it forces you to have to look at the competency scores, which is what actually is calculated into the grades.
Okay, got it. Any other questions for Mary?
Okay,
Thank
I
you,
have
Mary.
one other, it's not really a
The communication
full-fledged presentation. Hopefully this is gonna work for me. No, that's not the right one. Do we have,
Can you plug into that for your presentation? I know you want to
do we
show
have,
it. Okay.
adapters on this one? 'Cause I don't think this is the right one. Oh, wait, no. I know I've been able to.
Will that work? No?
Yes, I think
Yes.
that is the one that I need. Maybe not. Yep, that's it. Perfect. Thank you.
It's not Michelle's first rodeo.
I'm prepared.
Now what do I have to do to make it appear up there for you guys?
I
It
feel
didn't
like
just
at one
connect?
point they said it's like the easiest
It's just
the most
automatic.
basic solution is the one that works, which was unplugging it and then plugging it back
That's
in.
the plug.
Wrong one.
I think there's one, is there one that goes in here?
Is this the actual cord that is hooked up?
in now? I don't remember.
John said just unplug it. Should I unplug this?
Probably the TV, huh?
All right.
All right, let's give it like 5 seconds.
Well, if this does not work,
I don't know what it takes to boot it back up, but.
I can. I just wanted to be able to have some of the visuals as I talk through, but
That's good. We can wait a minute, cause I know we want it for Andrews and maybe other thing, Yikes. Okay, hold on. Hopefully it's.
It's connected.
Okay, good. Alright, well, just. Give it a second, okay. Does it usually automatically show up right when you plug it
This
in?
has happened before, and it was the wrong cable, so.
Oh, that's right.
like
This
eeny,
gets you
meeny,
in. Just give-
miny. Okay.
Swap that off. I can't remember which one it is, but if that gets you on.
There we go.
Yay!
Don't ask me why this is left on the table.
I don't know, we're doing it.
Seriously.
All right,
All right.
love it.
Let me just blow this up a little bit.
I created a keyboard better.
So one of the things that I've heard from the board, as we've, not only the board, but the public and the school communities, as we have been transitioning to competency-based.
Sorry, I need new contacts.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Is a need to get more information out there to educate our parents, to educate our community. So I've been trying to do that on the website, and by coming to the board and presenting and putting those presentations up on our district website. But I don't think I'm just gonna say it, I know this is a Facebook town. And so I thought, as we are expanding our social media presence, let me tap into that venue. So I wanna just walk through a couple things. First of all, hopefully this will work. I do have my own Facebook page for the school. Hopefully it's already open. So that is me, CIA Litchfield Mary. They wouldn't just let me put CIA Director, which is what I wanted, but you know. But you'll start to see, and this is a public page, but you'll start to see that every Friday I'm posting videos, little snapshot videos on This one was on how to access Power School. I did one on what is competency-based education. So I'm starting to make that a common practice. I try and do it every Friday before I leave, and sometimes I forget that I had been at GMS and I'm in my Halloween costume. Hopefully nobody notices.
Happens to the
Now that
best
I've
of
just
us.
said it on television. But I also wanted to share that, so you can find the information there. I also post some other things around. I try and do a little rah-rah too. But we also, everything that I put up, I do try and copy over to the Litchfield School District page. So if you follow that page, you should see the same information there. So that's one way that I'm trying to get the information out a little bit more conveniently to parents and to the community. The other thing that I asked, and I may have missed the deadline on, I sent this out after doing the recording on Friday to the 3 principals, and I asked them to put this blurb in their newsletters. Just that on Fridays I'm posting these segments to the Facebook page, but also that they are being archived. So that link will take you, sorry, not the blown up screen.
That's
What
okay.
I've tried to do here is by week, some of them I had put out before I started doing the Fridays, but you'll see either a handout or a video linked up here every week, and I tried to organize it by, they're by date, but also what are they about? Like, how are they user-friendly for parents? So hopefully, by continuing to do this, and getting some of our PD committee and our competency-based leadership committee on board to help with some of this as well. We are educating our parents, educating our students, educating our community, and helping people better understand what we are trying to accomplish. I will say that I have put out in some of the videos, if there are specific questions that people have, if there are specific things that people don't understand, email me with those, and I will make sure to, it might not be the next week if I have a whole long list, but I will attack those during the course of the year.
I think this is the only comment I have, and I did have a question about this as well, is that, of course, this is the first time I've seen your page, but it looks like to me you've built it as a personal page, because there's an option to add you as a friend, but it also appears that all of your, at least from what I see, all of your content is public, so people don't have to friend you.
Correct.
And so I think we need to make sure that's clear. So I think it is critically important. So nobody's going to see it. If you're not friending people on Facebook, which I know as a parent I would not necessarily, I'm not,
No, and
I don't friend teachers that I don't personally know.
Right.
So it's going to be critical for you to cross post
And I
across
always
different
do.
pages. So
I
that's
always,
the key.
I always do. I make sure anytime I post to my page, especially if it's something that is, sometimes I put cheesy inspirational quotes up, and I don't always link them to the school district page because I know Mike will roll his eyes at me. But anything that has any kind of content or celebrations of what we're doing or information for parents or the community, I immediately link it up to the school district page so that it's there. And I know that the school district page does have a significant following,
Yeah.
but I also wanted people to know that it's there.
So
Or just
kind of
on-
like a follow-up question is, I see you have 10 friends, and they're all, it's like, Val Nelson, Lauren Crowley, Jacob Hess, so they're
Right.
all school district
So-
employees, which are your friends. What is the purpose of
I
those
like some
friend
of them.
friend
I
pages?
like some of yours. Am I a friend? I don't know.
So
what?
what we were
I'd like
told,
some-
You can still like a post. All of our posts are
Absolutely.
public.
I made my posts public, so you can find them.
what we were told was not to friend people.
Yeah.
So I've had friend requests that I just ignored.
Me too.
And because they said
Why do you
not
need
to
a
do that.
personal page then?
But then to reach out, because you have to have a personal page in order to be a content editor on a school page. So it's like I have to have Litchfield Mike Jetty first. then we have the Litchfield School District page or the Litchfield Middle School
I
page.
thought they got rid of that.
And so that was the pathway to get to creating that. The other thing is that as people like the pages, I can highlight the name of somebody who liked it, and I can say, follow us.
Yes.
I can send a
Right,
follow request.
yes.
And that's how you bubble up in
Right,
the algorithm to have, because they're following you, so then when we post something out
Right.
there, the followers get that information.
yes,
And
right,
so
yeah.
we've been really trying to enhance the number of
I
followers,
could have sworn they got
not
rid of
friends.
that. So my recommendation actually is to, well, in your case, it wouldn't. What I would recommend to the other people that you don't want people to find you is check your privacy settings and lock yourself down. Make you not searchable, because I personally am seeing recommendations to friend some of these people, and, you just,
But if you can't, so I will tell you that it gets tricky, because when I first set it up, I had it set to, I couldn't post publicly without changing my profile, like part of my profile to, it got weird.
something else.
It got
Oh,
weird.
okay.
But the way
But I
we.
see why you're doing
Right,
it.
we all had to, because we have now building-based pages as well as the district page. So in order for, like, Mike and I and Chris, I believe, are the content editors on the district page. We had to have our own profiles to be able to share stuff there, but our stuff on our own profiles has to be public to be able to share it. So it's a little.
So you're sharing stuff on those pages from your name. That's what you want it to look like. Is that what you're saying? Okay, now I get it. Yeah. Okay. Okay. Any other questions from anybody? That's great. I hadn't seen these.
Yeah, work in progress. I'm trying to get the word out. I've put a couple things out. Like I said, I asked the principals to keep that blurb in their
I like that idea.
in their newsletters. I've also put some other things out through the newsletters, which I typically have not. I know Mike typically does SAU updates through those, but I've started to do a little bit more with that too.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's great.
All right.
Thank you very much.
Excellent.
I just
Thanks, Mary.
You
But
guys
you were pretty
need
close
me
to
for
the
any-
agenda times.
get out.
I know, right?
Wow. All right.
So far.
I know, right? Exactly. All right. Is there any community comment on agenda items? Mary took too long. All right.
Come to the table and say.
I know. Feel free.
There were technical difficulties.
All right, if there's no community comment, I will close community comment at this time, and then we will have another session closer to 8 o'clock, I believe.
Yep.
Yeah. Okay, so that's closed. And we do have quite a bit of correspondence, and thank you to Heidi for summarizing it, so I will do my best to get through it, as quickly as possible. On April 19th, we had correspondence from Melissa Reiki, community member.
October 19th.
Did I say, what is it?
April.
April. Okay, October 19th. I'm not going back as far as April. Melissa appreciates discussion and information, but wishes communication was better and sooner. October 20th, Liz McDonald to the board, confirmation of stage crossing meeting on 10/24 with Miss Harrison and Mr. Cutter. 10/20, Samantha Smith, community member, significant concerns about superintendent manipulating the school board and strong suggestion that board listen to concerns about him to regain trust. October 20th, Doug Totten, business admin to the board, answer to question about invoice to Custom Inc. October 20th, Doug Totten, BA to the board, confirmation that MS-25 has been uploaded and was attached. October 20th, Tina Harrison to the CIP committee and Copping School Board and Board of Selectmen, confirmation that FY22 deficit is paid and that we fully intend for FY23 to close with a zero balance. would like to present to CIP after approved by school board on November 2nd. On October 20th, Liz McDonald to select board, town moderator, and LCTV, scheduling of deliberative session, and there were further responses from Mr. Weber and Miss Ames. October 21st, Leanne Romano, community member, looking to make sure we don't do something stupid, in quotes, and mandate the COVID vaccine, believes it is poison, in quotes, and a risk to their health to be jabbed, in quotes. Dr. Jetty responded that there was no plan to mandate vaccines and will continue to follow the law on these issues. October 21st, Tina Harrison to the board, information regarding COVID vaccine for children. October 21st, Dr. Jetty to the board, circulating the LMS Architects Field Report. October 21st, Andrew Cutter to the board, taken aback by Budget Committee reps vote at October 20th Budget Committee meeting to remove unfilled police officer position, disagrees with vote and anticipates all unfilled school positions are now at risk. Response from Tara Hirschberger that vote was 8-1 and she did not receive any feedback from the board before the vote, and there were further responses by Tina Harrison and Liz McDonald. On October 25th, Tara Hirschberger to the board, attaching the budget committee agenda for 10/27 and outlining anticipated proposed cuts and soliciting feedback. On October 25th, Dr. Jetty to the board Dr. Jetty to the board, update on budget delivery, a hard copy, and reminder that still more work to be done to make reductions. There was a reply from Doug Totten, BA, on October 26th with an electronic copy of the budget. October 26th, Dr. Jetty to the board, the email to 2024 families regarding Washington, D.C. funds, and will compile responses, ideas from families. October 26th, Brian Dodge, community member, appreciates the email but concerned that was told funds were in account for years, supportive of credits for parking fees. October 26th, Cynthia Caleri, community member, concerned with the purposeful, in quotes, purposeful dissemination of inaccurate information over the past 3 years regarding Washington, D.C. fundraising money. October 28th, Crystal Arnott, community member to board and budget committee, concerned that there is a potential to cut special education services and requests both boards reconsider. October 28th, Michelle Flynn to the board, circulating 3 draft agendas for the week. October 30th, Christina Harrison to the board, circulating New Hampshire DOE cost per student numbers ahead of budget season. October 31st, Samantha McClelland, community member, concerned about potential cuts to special education services and requesting board keep in mind impact of potential cuts. October 31st, Lauren Crowley, food services director, reminder of first wellness meeting on November 1st at 3:30. We are getting there. October 31st, Liz McDonald to the board. Conflicts with Wednesday meeting time. Liz has CHS playoff game for her son, who is a senior, and Heidi has a work obligation until 8:30. Replies by Dr. Jetty regarding timing. Heidi Ames also regarding details of her conflict. October 31st, Tara and Bob Keating, or Tara, community members, concerns about cuts to special education budget by either school board or budget committee. Requested that letter be read into minutes, but we no longer do that. Suggest all members of board and budget committee read it and will be available for community to read as well. November 11th, Holly Falzone, Human Resources Director, request for substitute rates, which is on our agenda. November 1st, Andrew Cutter to the board, superintendent, business admin, and HR, enclosing his analysis of fiscal year 24 budget in advance of Thursday's hearing. Andrew and Holly, at the time, were speaking at 1 p.m. today to review.
That didn't happen.
November 2nd, Josh Knight to the board regarding proposal for a second full-time PE teacher at CHS and expansion of CHS athletic director's role to district-wide. And I believe that's it. Is there any other, anything that was missed?
No.
Or came later that I don't have? Okay.
No, thank you for the overview.
So thank you, Heidi, for that. That was quite the summary. All right. So now it's the superintendent's report.
Thank you. So a couple of things here. I want to start off by pointing out that our next school board community forum is scheduled for December 14th. So that's bearing down on us. I've heard from one board member that they're suggesting the topic for that event be bullying and culture and climate in our schools. And it sort of dovetails in with the work that we have begun with Bill Preble and his team. Bill, we actually had our initial kickoff meeting with Bill the other day and the three principals, and they are ready to get started pretty quickly here. So, so this might be a nice segue for us to talk and to hear from the community about concerns that they may have. But that was just one topic suggestion. If there are other ideas or thoughts, happy to hear those and to figure out what we can do to get that event organized.
I think that's a great suggestion. It wasn't my suggestion.
I was gonna say, was it yours?
What a brilliant board member that was. No, it wasn't me, but I think it's a topic that bears repeating, as much as often as we can. And if, we can listen to community concerns and ideas and how we can better address these issues, I think it's a good community discussion to have. So I support that.
I think it's a great topic as well. I think it's emotionally charged for a lot of people. And I think it can happen to anyone. And honestly, I think parents can benefit from the discussion too, because I've also seen bullying parents from comments on social media. So I think that anything that we can talk about, throughout the community, maybe it's small group work or whatever, I think that would be good. I did hear other topic suggestions of like social emotional wellness, mental health, but I really feel like that's
Dovetails.
part of it, yes. Would Bill Preble be available to come to that meeting?
So that's something we would have to discuss. Our contract with Bill doesn't include, I don't believe, a community night, but it may be worth seeing what it would cost to expand the contract to include Bill in that evening. The other thing is that we have heard, and it was actually from our discussion at the last meeting, there was a member of the public watching who reached out with concerns about the student survey and how the data would be collected, how it would be processed. And so I know the principal of the school where the child attends has already had a follow-up conversation. So there may be an opportunity for us to better explain to everybody what it is that we're doing and how is that data collected, how is that data maintained for privacy. So I think there's a ton of possibilities on what we could do with it, but if we make that our evening topic and promote it, and then are just there to listen and, we can do some presentation and listen.
I'm just marking the date on my calendar.
Yeah. What do you think, Andrew?
Yeah, I think it's a great topic. I think even us as a board have faced bullying while sitting at this table. So I think it's relevant.
Yep. I mean, I think it's also good, just other topics that had come up were like Power School, but I mean, I do think that you want something, like you gotta think about what people are gonna wanna attend.
Yeah, and I think, Mary is doing a great job of getting the word out about Power School with her videos. I just shared, one of her
Where are the
posts.
videos?
She has she has a Facebook page, Mary, yeah.
I can share that.
Oh, CIA Mary, yeah.
And
Yeah, CIA.
I actually, shared a link, a video from her page on the Litchfield School Board page. So if you go to the Litchfield School Board page, just click on it and then you can see the rest of her posts from there.
I would like to see, I'm on camera. I would like to see someone explain why we're using different grading systems, because that's all I hear. Oh, I'm coming in with a
Right,
bang.
so yeah, that's
Yeah,
another.
like why are some kids getting 1 to 4? Why are we grading formatives? Like people, if they don't count, why are we grading formatives?
Do you know, have people with those questions asked the teacher?
Yes, and
And-
they don't know.
They don't know their own grading?
No, some of them are using 1 to 4, some are using,
Right,
some teachers have 1 grade in, some have no grades in.
Have they asked the teacher why they're grading the way they do?
Yes.
And-
And they wanna know why some are doing this way, why isn't it consistent? Why some, like Andrew, you're gonna grade 1 through 4, you're gonna grade the way they want, only summatives count.
But that's two questions, Liz, I think.
No, it isn't, it's,
Well, the consistency.
Yeah.
So asking a teacher why you, because teachers have always graded differently, right? I mean,
Right.
that goes back to, tests in my class were worth 40% back in the day, and somebody else it might have been 30% or whatever. So there's always been,
I
but
agree
I
with
should be
that.
able to answer why I have placed the values that I have.
because
on it.
she took training and that's the way we're doing it now.
But the consistency thing between teachers, they may not know that answer. So I think that's a question that
No.
elevates up to a principal in terms of what it
No,
is that
why
we're
are
trying
some
to do.
grading on a 1 to 4 and some are still doing the old way?
I don't think we have an answer for that.
Because they
So,
are,
I'm
and
just
there've always been
Putting it back to the
variations.
agenda, is this a
Right.
topic suggestion, or is this something that
Parents
we
are
need to investigate
confused.
internally?
Cause I have a letter I'm sending to the board as a parent,
Okay.
and people are confused. I'm confused as a parent.
I think
I'm
it's
done.
worthwhile
Yeah.
as a separate conversation. I don't know that it fits here in the agenda.
Great.
Fair enough.
And I think too, they need to reach out to the teachers and the principals.
They have been,
Okay.
over and over and over, and we continue to push competencies and they're not working, the teachers are still not following it, it's not working. And I think it needs to come to the board again and discuss it.
So let's do that. Let's add it.
Excellent.
If
So
I only
by
knew
the
the
way,
chair who
Liz-
could add it to the agenda.
Sorry.
By the way, Liz, I'm turning the meeting over to you on time.
I have sad news to report, the soccer team did lose 1 to 2, and I'm gonna say the score should have been the other way due to some not favorable calls. But I consider it a life lesson to the kids. Sometimes when a ref doesn't see offsides or actually see the ball cross the line, you don't, it's a life
You
lesson.
don't get fair calls in life sometimes.
Exactly.
Yep.
All right.
All right, so we are right here.
We are on 2022-2023 tuition rates.
Excellent. Superintendent?
So what you have there are the proposed tuition rates for this year. So remember that we have to complete the DOE 25, get all the information submitted, and based upon that, the amount that it costs to educate a child in our schools at each level is determined. If you look at the history down below, we're providing you where we've been. So you can see at the elementary, middle, and high school, because it is specific to the grade level. And you can see sometimes it goes up, sometimes it goes down. In this particular case, they've all gone up pretty substantially,
Yeah.
so.
But we're still in the middle of the pack. I looked at the
No,
whole.
we're not. We're 11th from the bottom.
On
11th from
some
the
of,
bottom.
I looked at all the elementary, middle,
43rd out
if
of
you add them all
53.
together, yeah.
What are you looking at to determine the bottom?
The
The
state,
preschool through 12. So we're
Districts that-
11th
The
from the bottom
districts.
there.
Is
Yeah.
there a link to that, or what are we looking
I
at?
shared
Oh,
it in an
Tina
email
had
to
it.
you, to the board,
they line up all the SAUs and how much they each spend
for pupil spending.
per pupil expenditure.
So we're 43rd out of 53 and in the 19th percentile.
And is that based upon last year's rates or this year's?
21,
21,
yeah, that's the last,
Got it.
published rate by the DOE.
so it's a couple years. Got it.
This will catch up with DOE in a, short order, now that everybody's got their DOE 25s in, they'll just
Yeah.
recompile it, but, you can expect that we moved and everybody else moved, so,
I think we've been consistently about in the same place. I mean,
I don't think that we've been this low. The last time I looked, and I don't know if it was last year or the year before, we were like
thought we-
$1,200, $1,400 under the average, and now it's like $2,000 under the average. I feel like we're spending proportionately less now, based on what I saw previously. So,
All combined.
yes.
Except transportation
I just
and
look at
food
the easy way to
services.
look, yeah, except for what?
It doesn't include transportation and food services because those are different district-wide.
Yeah.
So you have some districts that are larger, so the transportation fees might be higher, or they might have bigger enrollment, but per student spending, we're actually quite low.
In 2021, that would have been, so we had some remote kids that year, but that wouldn't have affected our budget.
No.
No? That,
Well, you
well,
divide
that
by
was
your
fall
average.
fall 20 into 21
And that's what I mean, that's
spring.
kind of what I said was, it affected the whole state.
Yeah,
So
Right.
depending on the district, some districts were hybrid for, for
Yeah.
3/4 of the year with their whole student population. So I don't know whether
Right.
that is an increase or a decrease.
right,
But,
exactly. It
I don't
wasn't
know.
like we shut down like the following,
Right,
the
right.
previous year.
right,
Yeah.
most of our kids were in school. We were still operating
Yeah.
kids with kids in school and remote.
So typically, we get a vote of the board to approve these rates because we do have students who are paying tuition to be in our schools and districts that are paying tuition have children in our schools. And when we entered into those agreements, we said, once we get the updated numbers, there'll be a cost calculation done. We don't have to vote tonight. If you want to take time and
I'll make a
consider
motion
this.
to approve.
I'll second.
Yeah, either way.
My only discussion is, over the past several years, and as this highlights, even though with the state, and I missed your email, so thank you for
Yep.
that. For us as a town, it's high, right? It's higher than it's ever been. That's a fact, and it's the first year I've seen over 18, right? Over 17 and 18.
Right, but I think that's that's not,
It's proportional, so there are I don't have the count
we won't know
function
until we can compare the rates.
Yeah, you,
Yeah.
that's
Right,
right. To your
right.
point, all towns go up. I appreciate that. I'm
Right.
just saying for us, looking just within our own district,
Yeah.
it seems high.
There's a couple of kind of general rules when you're comparing to larger districts.
Right.
It's always gonna be less because there's economy of scale. And so that's just a general rule. The small districts, if you look at the top of that list, Sunapee, Moulton Borough, they're outspending us significantly, 10 grand.
Those
I'll-
smaller districts, though, a lot smaller districts.
I'll bet Sunapee crosses,
Yeah.
they're smaller than us, they're about half our size.
They go to Kearsarge High School.
Nope, they go to Sunapee High School.
There's a Sunapee High School
Yes,
now?
there is, Sunapee Middle
there
High
is.
School.
Sunapee was on the list with pre-K to 12.
But they'll cross $30,000 a student this year in looking at that
Yeah,
list.
but I think in 21 they were up over 26.
Cause
I remember that.
Yeah.
yeah, I think it's almost 29, so that's why I thought, they're gonna be the first one to cross 30.
Oh, that's
So,
Warner.
anyway,
It's a significant, well,
Does the work at the middle school roll into the number that we're seeing in the middle for middle? Is that why middle is?
No, the work did not roll in there.
But that will be a part of next year, I'm sure.
It doesn't roll into the per pupil cost.
It doesn't. It's completely separate.
No, yeah, it is separate, yeah. So the general fund rolls in there, the grants fund rolls in
Okay.
there, and the food service rolls in there.
Got it. Thank you.
I thought food service was removed from the
They
per
remove the
pupil.
food service local revenue, so what
Oh.
if kids buy their
Yeah.
food, that gets taken out.
Okay,
As does the transportation, cause again, they're looking, I
Right.
think a lot of people use this for your tuition.
Mm-hmm.
So if you're tuitioning in, you're not taking the transportation.
Right.
And your tuition shouldn't depend on how many kids bought their
Yeah.
food or didn't buy
right,
their food.
right,
So,
right, true.
Did I play into your talking points here?
you did.
Yeah, I like that.
Nicely done.
we were looking, Mary and I were looking at some statewide testing data today, and, we're 3 miles wide by 7 miles long. Right, so think about our transportation costs, and we go up and down a couple of main thoroughfares with all these cul-de-sacs that we don't go down. And then, two districts that jumped out at me, Conval and Kearsarge. we're like dwarfs in comparison when you look
Yeah.
at the size of it. It's like, holy smokes, how small we are. And so,
Kearsarge is Warner and all those other.
oh
New
yeah,
London
there's like
and-
9
yeah.
towns. It's huge. So obviously you have to pull out transportation costs because they're in a whole different ballgame when it comes to driving buses around compared to us. So there are reasons why they try to standardize this so you can do some comparison. There's still economy of scale.
Yep, so motion to approve in a second, right?
Yep. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained. 4-0-0.
Thank you for that. Next up, we've got the budget process, and it was really a placeholder. I knew that we were, just wanted to have an opportunity to engage in just feedback for us from last night, going into tomorrow. What is it that you need relative to the budget process? I think our intent is to have, our team is coming back again tomorrow. There'll be follow-up questions potentially, so we wanna make sure people are there to answer that. So I'm just curious what feedback there may be.
I'd like to see the slide deck. I'd also like to see, the attrition numbers that were presented. I know you mentioned you were gonna share those. That's important. I think the overall feedback is, it would have been great to have an understanding of the presentation in advance, to Tina, your point, just point of reference. As read during correspondence and as mentioned last night, we received several notes from public during, regarding special education and proposed reductions, which I had no idea about. I'm assuming the board had no idea about, and just, hey, this is why you're receiving those notes, would have been helpful. So, that's it.
I agree with those things.
You know, to react to that a little bit, when you put documents out into the public sphere, and we've shared it with the, you know, we want transparency with the budget committee and with other folks, you don't know who's having conversation with whom. So, you know, as those emails were coming in, I'm like, we haven't even presented the budget yet, and we're already getting emails about
Right.
stuff. And the fact that it was copied to budget committee members made me wonder where the information flow may have been. So, you know, I think with transparency, it's gonna lead to questions and information getting out, and then we're gonna be responding to it, so. One piece of feedback from our team was, it's something, I mean, honestly, sitting where I was in the room last night at the front table, and interacting with the board, it's not something that I noticed, but apparently there was a lot of chatter going on in the room, and it was very disruptive for our team who was trying to pay attention to the presentation. So I would just request, that tomorrow night, we make it clear people are there to listen and not to engage in dialogue, among themselves in the back of the room, so that we can really focus on what's being said.
I got that input too, it was very, yeah.
I didn't hear that or see that. but-
I didn't hear it, but I think there was a difference on where you were in the room.
Yeah,
I happen to like that room though.
I
for
love that room,
yeah, I
and
do
the
too.
chairs.
I think that was, a lot more, I don't know, it was a little more
Brighter.
focused, brighter. I could
I love
connect to
the
the internet.
like
Three
that- yeah, the
screens, I'm like,
multiple
should I look
screens
here,
are
should I look
great.
here,
Yeah.
should I look here?
Yeah, having the screens on the wall was a big help too, so that was, I enjoyed meeting there. Just my 2 cents.
We just need to figure out if LCTV can actually do a live
Stream,
broadcast from
yeah.
there. Yeah, I think they can, cause I've seen it from other meetings. I just don't know if they're using the equipment or if it's a separate camera that they bring in.
I asked if they were using those, and he said yes, and he was sitting in the back with the laptop.
It wasn't live streaming though.
Oh, wasn't?
No, oh, it might have been live streaming, it wasn't live on TV.
Okay.
There was another meeting going on at the same time that was live streamed, I think that's
Yeah, the
why.
planning board was here live
Yeah, right.
streaming, so
Okay.
maybe that's the live stream. Oscar, to put you on the spot, can you live stream from the fire station community room?
Yep, we started doing that recently.
You
Okay.
can.
Cool.
So,
So maybe
I think it was
just
just the
only one at a
conflict
time.
last night that
Yep.
Okay.
created that. Thank you.
That makes sense.
And I did see it was posted, the planning board meeting was posted on, I saw it on Facebook, but it was labeled as the budget committee meeting. So Oscar, if you just make a note of that.
I'm sure Mr. Brunel's watching and
Yeah, say his name 3 times, right? Yeah, so it was labeled as a budget committee meeting, but it was the planning board.
So next up, we have sub rates, and we added this memo from Holly on Monday. we've really been trying to pay attention to getting subs into our classrooms. The board will remember that, I think it was last summer, not this past summer, the summer before, we increased the sub rate to make sure that we had people available up to $15.50 an hour. This memo is asking you to accept some adjustments to it. So one of those would be that we increase the sub rate for our paraprofessionals also to $15.50 an hour. The thought process is that we're having difficulty getting paras and para subs in, and that there is a little bit of a difference between a sub teacher who comes in and has the teacher plan that they're enacting, versus the sub paras. There's never a plan that's left. It's sort of, I need you to help and be flexible and so forth. So the request is to increase that rate of pay, hoping that we can ensure that our sub paras, that we have people available to be sub paras.
Is that step one on the?
It is not. That exceeds those steps. So the past practice has been that step one is the sub para rate,
Correct.
but we're not able to attract people into that position. And so we're asking for it to be the $15.50.
So this memo reads to me like there are people in the school system right now that could or would or do swap between being a substitute teacher in one class, but then a sub para in another.
Right. And
So they would get the
rate of pay
same
changes,
rate.
Yeah. They don't now, but they would.
If you come in as a sub
Yeah.
teacher, and then you step down to a sub para,
Yeah.
you're getting sub teacher pay. There's no pay change.
Once we've called somebody in and said, we need you to be a sub teacher today.
Yeah.
If we turn around to that person and say, for this period, we need you to go cover as a sub para, they continue to be paid as a sub teacher because that's how we called them in. So we're filling their day, keeping them going, but now they're in a slightly different role. But if you call them in as a sub para, they will only make the sub para rate. And you can see it's a difference of almost $2 an hour at the current system. So people are saying, I'm not coming in as a sub para.
Sub-teachers can help as a para, but not vice versa. Well, they can, but.
So what we're saying is, you're in as a sub, and whether you are subbing as a teacher or subbing in a classroom as a para to help a kiddo out, we have to pay you as a sub, because that is sort of the current practice, and we wanted to standardize that by having the one rate at $15.50.
My only concern is that it exceeds the starting rate for a paraprofessional. So that's my only concern. I understand though that being hired as a para is different from being called in as a sub. You get to pick what days you wanna work if you're a sub. Paras are there every day. They're assigned to one student. It's, being a sub, you never know what you're gonna get, kind of thing. Have we had any pushback from any of the paraprofessionals about raising the sub rate of pay?
We have not. We've had a lot of dialogue with the association about it.
Excellent.
Good.
And
Yeah.
our,
Good.
the consensus is that it's more detrimental to have nobody in there
Absolutely.
Correct.
than to, and so the consensus is we need to honor the work that's being done with the increased sub rate.
Okay.
I guess, what's the worst case? Worst case is somebody who's at step one quits,
We hire them as a sub.
and then they say, but I'm willing to sub.
Yeah.
And,
Pay them holidays and sick days.
but that's the other piece, right?
Okay.
That currently, they are getting holidays and they are getting sick
I see.
time, and there are other benefits that they would give up to become a sub.
Okay.
So,
Yeah.
even though
okay.
the pay is a little bit different, there are other
It's not
financial
just about the
benefits.
pay. Okay.
Yep.
I make a motion to approve the sub rates to $15.50.
I'll second.
What's the budget impact?
Well, it'll obviously cost more to do, but with the number of vacant positions and what we've been running this year, it will be, we're a quarter of the way through, so it'll be covered by,
The budget that's already there?
the vacant, right?
They're approving para and nurse, right?
This doesn't talk about, I thought the nurses were already at 20.
Okay.
Yeah.
It's just the
Yeah.
way it's
Yeah.
read,
Yeah.
it reads, it's a little
It
confusing.
makes it sound like those two
Exactly.
change-
That's why I wanted to ask about the bottom the substitute custodian, food service, office and I didn't understand that last thing. By raising this 1550 for the teacher and para, is that going to then affect the group of 4 that I just read down below? 'Cause I don't-
took it as those remain unchanged, it's just for teachers and
Okay.
parents.
That's my understanding. So I think
So
what
therefore-
Holly has is she has these 6 pays on the memo board above her desk because
Okay.
she just has to keep track of it.
Well, I
These
can't,
are the
the one
6
that's
available
changing-
substitute positions, and so when our salary schedule changes for the next contract, that's when they would change.
Right. I think right now she has 7 above her desk, and she's getting it down to 6 by
Yes.
combining the sub-para
Okay.
and the sub-teacher.
and why aren't we proposing a standard 1550 across the board?
So that has not been part of our dialogue. The area that has been, well, there's 2 problem areas. It's getting anybody into the positions, right? So that's, to your point, could we do better with food service workers if we were paying more? But it's a deeper conversation we'd have to have with the association in terms of where are people on the scale? What's the impact of that? So, right now, we focus just on the paraprofessional piece.
I think in fairness, I think that's a worthy conversation to have, and I don't know that I'm ready to vote positive without that piece of information.
I think, for me anyway, I think the substitutes and the substitute teachers and substitute paras impact the kids most directly. You know, I think if a custodian is out, things don't get done, and that does impact students and staff. But the I'm not saying those positions aren't critical, I'm saying things can wait, or things can get picked up by other personnel. Like, we have paras who have signed on to help with custodial tasks after school. We can find ways to get those jobs done. If we don't have substitutes for paraprofessionals, we're not meeting IEP needs and requirements necessarily. We have to pull people from other positions, like principals, vice principals, guidance counselors, psychologists, to fill those roles so that we're
In compliance.
in compliance with the
I
IEPs.
take this as a 2-step thing. I mean, I don't have a problem voting today for the teacher and paraprofessional, and then having,
That's
the
different
opportunity to
conversation.
speak
I
to
agree.
the
I think-
LSSA about the other ones and bring that back potentially.
I'd like that.
Right.
Yes.
I would
Yeah.
like that, because
I
I think
think-
that's important. One, we have one consistent rate for substitutes in the district. All roles are important.
Yeah, I agree with you. I also think that, me unable to fill these vacancies is a factor in, we
There are
don't see
there are
But
more
increasing will
para-
help, right? I mean, it should help in theory.
with subs, yeah,
Yeah.
but the bottom of the pay scale.
According to
food
your
tech
handy
or the-
spreadsheet, there are, I think, 5 or 6 positions that were open, and there were 3 custodians, so those were the biggest
Yeah.
buckets that were not filled thus far.
Thanks to Holly for putting that together, by the way. Holly sent out a revised update on that today, on vacant
Oh, okay.
positions.
Okay, oh, I
And I
didn't see
didn't mean
that.
to
I didn't either.
put my foot in my mouth. Darlene, you know what I mean.
Alright, so we,
We have a
motion
motion,
and a second,
So the
right?
motions for the 1550 for
para sub, Sub-
paraprofessional substitute. And the understanding is that we will have a separate discussion on the other 4 categories of substitute in the near future.
yes,
Great.
I'm perfect, I think that's great. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained.
Excellent, thank you for that. Enrollment report update, we picked up a couple of kids in
Oh.
the high school and at the elementary school, but nothing too remarkable in that report. Happy to take questions if you have those. And
High
then-
absence rates though, boy, 10% in the
Kids are so sick
elementary and
now.
middle.
Oh, wait,
Holy
you're on COVID?
Yeah, she jumped.
Oh,
ahead.
sorry, I'm thinking.
Okay, this is,
okay.
this
I
is the
was looking at
enrollment,
wrong
just the
report.
enrollment
Sorry.
numbers. Nope,
It's
you're
this
good.
time of year.
Yeah.
All right,
I
now,
didn't see this.
So-
enrollment report, anyone have any questions, comments, concerns?
Welcome to
No.
town, to the new families.
Yeah, agreed. Washington DC refund update.
So, I know the board heard from, some families just regarding this, and I think, Mrs. Dodge had come in and made the suggestion to look at the parking fee money. So, we're in the middle of doing that analysis. I think we're almost there, but from what we can tell, we collected in parking fees, an amount that exceeds what they fundraised by individuals. Because remember, not all kids have a parking permit. So those who do, may have fundraised $200, they may have fundraised $15. And so we had to go through and analyze, like, all right, how much would we give back each child based on that? And it comes to a total of $3,473 that could be refunded out of that money. And that's gonna go up a little bit because we had to go back one more year to see if any sophomores had paid partial fees. And so that number we just got our hands on today, so that hasn't been factored in yet. So, you know, rough numbers, use $3,500 of money that could be refunded from parking. And then next year, assuming that those students get a parking permit again, then that would be adding another $100 per.
What does that
And so,
Phone, I just shut it off.
Sorry.
you know, there'd be more money, but here's the concern. So this has now raised, a bunch of other questions, and so I'm looking for the board to give us input to go solve this problem. But I think this is an easy one because it's money we collect, it's money earmarked toward parking, upgrades or renovations at the parking lot, sealing the parking lot, et cetera.
A direct cost associated with it.
Yeah, and so if there's not enough money to do that, we don't seal as much or we defer it for another year. So this is a way to make those students feel whole, but it's not gonna make everybody whole, cause not everybody's gonna have a parking permit.
Yeah.
And so, you know, there's still about $10,000 hanging out there in fees that I'm not sure how we would go after that. The other thing is, now the requests are starting to sort of domino, and it's like, well, my child raised funds in 8th grade, but, is not getting a parking permit, or perhaps is transferred to another school. And how do we get our piece of that? So it's just getting very, very, kind of convoluted to try to sort out, and I'm looking for guidance from the board on what you think is the best way to proceed on.
Policies on that, or no, nothing?
I don't think there's anything on this. This is so unprecedented.
Yeah.
To be in this situation, and so,
How many kids will not get a refund of parking passes this year or next year? Like, I would think a majority of these students will be getting parking passes next year or the year after, or have siblings that they could have a credit to their family.
well, the sibling thing is one of the questions also. Like, does that, cause you could keep doing this for, until everybody's been made whole, right? Waiving parking fees, and, you know, in the future, like right now, we're refunding parking fees that were collected. In the future, you could just say, you get a free parking pass because you still have a outstanding
that's up
debt.
to
And
the
that could
parents,
pass
yeah.
along to a family, that's another interesting point.
I mean, we bought 2 parking passes last year, but if I paid for them both, but if you gave one to Tommy, I just give him the money. Do you know what I mean? Like, any way that we can do it without tapping anyplace else, I think. I'd be interested, wow.
But then you do have those kids that don't get a parking pass, you know?
We don't wanna be dealing with this 4 years later.
No.
You know,
And I think the fundraising was done by that student, you know?
But it's still a family. The parents, people just want the money back. If you wanna give your money to your daughter who paid for the parking pass, sure.
No, I understand, but I don't know. When we do a fundraiser, you know, I support the fundraiser to support my kid. I don't buy, you know, like, I don't know. For me, the fundraiser is like crowdsourcing.
can we send out, I mean, I know for me,
Yeah,
it was a fundraiser, okay?
right.
There may be, like, certain families may be interested in saying, it's okay, don't worry about it, you know? Give them the option first.
I think it depends on how much they raised, too.
Sure. Yep.
There were some big numbers.
Is there an opportunity to
Understood.
offset senior activity costs?
The problem with that is, that's real money. So in other words, if you're going on a trip, somebody's gonna have to pay for that trip.
Yeah.
Where I don't wanna say the parking fees aren't real money, but we can defer the maintenance or supplement that in some other way. The cost
No
of a
hit to
senior
the
trip.
budget immediately.
Correct.
Yeah, so
So two things I was thinking of is free pass to athletic games. Put a value on that, like, here's a free pass that will entitle to you to go to any games except NHIAA throughout the year. You know?
$7 tonight, 7 big ones, $7.
I know, well, we can't, those
Yeah.
aren't free.
Yeah.
But athletic pass, and then also, we have an unbelievable production that's about to come up, and I know that there is a ton of people that wanna go to that, and it's not gonna be a ton of money, but, you know, if you bring your family, if it's $10 each,
Yeah, it's 15.
okay.
And the proceeds from that go into the performing arts account. So that affects the performing arts ability to put on productions and concerts and things like that.
But athletics, does that go to
Yeah,
each
I don't
sport, or does that go into a main bucket? I don't know, I'm just,
I'm not sure where that goes.
Do all
Yeah,
sports charge gate fees?
No.
I don't know.
Have you received any other creative ideas?
No, I have not. But this, as soon as you said athletics, and as soon as the comment
Yeah.
about, performing arts came up, I immediately thought, you have to pay like royalties, you
Yeah.
have to pay
Yeah.
costume rental. There are expenses that are real, that are on the backside of that.
There is a budget, but, you know, we've also, I can speak from experience, cause Dan's doing tech, we just had to replace, an entire rack of bulbs and, gels and gobos that have been not maintained over the past few years, so that's coming out of the ticket
That's
sales.
expensive.
That's
Yes.
very
Yeah,
expensive.
those are
Yeah.
expensive.
yeah,
So it's finding those creative ideas
Yeah,
that
yeah.
are
That aren't
true
taking money
deferrals.
right,
Yeah,
right.
And do we charge for a basketball game? I don't honestly know,
we used to,
Sometimes.
sometimes.
I don't know that we're ready to make a decision yet.
No.
yeah,
I think
no,
we
I
still
agree.
need to
So it doesn't
brainstorm
sound-
ideas.
I mean, we have some ideas, but
Does the board think that if we begin the process with parking, and once we begin the process, we need to keep carrying on and try to make people as whole as we can.
Can you first send a survey to people saying,
Sure.
are you interested in, I really truly think there
think
may
you're gonna
be
get
some people that won't.
500 different answers, you know what I mean?
Well, yes or no, like, do you, like,
and a suggestion. What what would
Yeah.
you like to see?
Yep.
You know,
So it's 82 juniors who fundraised money,
Yeah.
so it's not even the whole class,
Right.
excuse me.
Sure.
But we could start with the 82 and we could just see how many people say, we're good.
Yeah.
Because, I think some people have the opinion, like, we earned that money.
I understand.
other people have the
but
opinion-
There are others that are they're gonna not have that opinion.
Yeah. I agree.
And so if people are willing to say, we're okay, move on, and I can get the 82 down to whatever
Right.
number is less than that, it just gives us some sense, but once they make that commitment that I'm done, then we move on, we delete them off the list and move on.
So I think the brainstorm is definitely great. At the end of the year, though, we do have to report to the auditors, and the further we go away from the kid, the harder that's
Right.
going to be. I think the parking fees make sense. I think that's something we can defend. But if we start much more creative than that, it's gonna be tricky to defend
Good
it.
point.
Agreed.
Okay.
And
I like the,
Defend as
I like
in
the
giving
parking idea
money
for
back
2
to 'em.
years, right? Just let it
Yeah.
cycle through and that's your cap. I mean, to your point, you have to be done with the terror. You have to be, you can't carry this on indefinitely.
You know, maybe some kid couldn't afford parking and now they can because
Right.
they're getting their fundraising money back.
or it's free.
Or, yeah.
And again, the parking, it could be, I donate the funds I raise to my friend who has a parking permit, cause then again, they're wiping their personal slate clean by helping somebody who didn't do fundraising. I mean, it's just, I think, in the end, it's an account that we can work within.
Yeah.
All right, I'll keep plugging,
Table that, yep.
and I'm also gonna keep ears open for creative ideas. If somebody has a suggestion, because, everybody all of the actions that went into this, and I read the email, I do understand people's frustration with this, but it was all good intent to get these trips taken care of in the middle of a pandemic, and I think judgment calls were made fully expecting that things would be back to normal shortly. And, you know, none of us really knew in that first March when we had to make these decisions about the trip, none of us had any idea how long this was gonna go. And so I think people really did make best intent decisions.
And in my view, it's no knock on anybody sitting at this table, it's not, right? But at the same time, again, it gets back to communication, and how communication certainly could have been better, could have been improved, and it could have been well in advance of now, so. And I think that's part of the frustration you're seeing in some of those emails.
I agree.
Yeah.
Awesome.
All right, thank you for that.
Public minutes from October 19th, 2022. Anyone?
I'll make a motion to approve the public minutes from October 19th.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed, abstained, 4-0-0. Business and operations, financial and operations update. Doug?
All right, so to get us back on track, I really don't, I don't
I
have a
know.
whole lot. I think, you know, the focus has been on the budget last night and then tomorrow night. 2 weeks from now is the second board meeting, so that's where you'll have the multiple expense report, revenue reports, as well as a report on where we are with the capital projects fund. So I do not have a update tonight.
Okay.
Check.
What is-
Report.
Sorry, what is the status of the audit? Is that done? It just needs to be written up? Is that where it stands?
I believe, yeah, that they're writing it, yep.
Okay.
Typically, the cycles will receive that in March,
Yep,
so.
Yep.
yep.
Before.
The budget committee appreciated the delivery of the budget on time for the timetable.
Anything else? Reports. Budget committee.
There are a few things I just wanna cover. The budget committee since, September 21st, it's been 6 weeks. We've answered 30 questions from the budget committee. I think that's good to know. The town's attorney came and questions were asked about the process, municipal leases, et cetera, at the last meeting. I just would suggest watching the meeting. It's in the first part. There was some discussion at the last meeting by the selectmen that the budget committee could choose to not support a budget over the tax cap and let it go to be voted. But legal counsel affirmed it's the duty of the budget committee to put forward a budget that they support, as in vote to support. The selectmen hadn't discussed this prior, it just came up at the last meeting. This is an unusual year because the selectmen did not give the budget committee a budget that was under the tax cap, and from what I can tell, that did not happen before. Is that true from your experience as well? Have they ever delivered a budget under the budget cap? Not under the budget cap?
No.
Yeah, I didn't think so. Okay. So that put the budget committee in the position to be required to cut quite a bit and to even just get to the tax cap. Some of the budget committee felt that the selectmen should have made the initial cuts. Some on the budget committee feel like they're a partner with the town to make these cuts. But it's interesting that the selectmen's rep to the budget committee has felt in the past that the budget committee was a partner to help make the cuts, and this year his phrase was that the budget committee took two knives and an axe, but they had to. The selectmen were not willing to trim the budget, so they put the budget committee in that position from the start. Bottom line is the budget committee cut a little over $250,000 in total. The budget's now $13,000 under the cap, and it's about $7.7 million.
And it passed, what was the vote?
It's not been
Not voted
voted,
on
it's
yet?
not totally
Okay.
final. I feel like they were waiting for some, was it social security? I did see
Oh,
it
that's
in,
fine.
I saw it in the spreadsheet. No, it was workers' comp, I think.
Okay. Faculties Improvement Committee? Tina?
Oh, what?
Facilities.
Facilities.
We
Facilities.
haven't met.
Yeah.
Right?
We have not met,
We-
but
Okay.
just an update or reminder for the board, so we were, our facilities meeting is every Wednesday, so we were there from 10 to 1 today, I think. And so we are set for the tours next Wednesday. And
The ninth.
remember, all board members are invited to that tour. The school's progressing along really well. There'll be some transitions taking place. The library is just about done, a few little pieces to be done. You're gonna be impressed when you walk in and see the space. It's painted, it's refreshed. The new lighting is just remarkable in there, so.
So Andrew said he can't make it. Would you like to schedule another time?
Yeah, I can certainly coordinate with Principal.
Yeah, cause I actually prefer a different date, and instead of wasting Mrs. Grantham's time, maybe Andrew and I can go together.
Yeah, I think that's great.
Is that okay, Andrew?
She'd be happy
Yeah.
to tour you, she's very proud of it. And so we're looking to showcase, and we'll be almost buttoning up everything except for the 8th grade wing. I mean, we'll be getting into that, right around Thanksgiving, so.
When does the new heating go online for the building?
It's coming online as we speak, really, so they're starting up ERVs. We got this very detailed report about the startup of an ERV, the startup of a unit, and it's interesting because it answers some of the questions the board has had and the public has had. It's like, here's what was spec'd, here's the picture of the model number, this is the way it's adjusted, all of those details are coming through as stuff is being fired up.
So when are we discontinuing the oil-based legacy system?
Legacy.
So we have to leave it in place until the last, it looks like the last piece for this will be the hot water system. And so it has to remain in place to make sure we have hot water available. So we made some decisions today about the new hot water tanks and the way those are gonna be installed. So I would
Initially,
say
they had it
soon.
spec'd for one hot water tank, but that wasn't gonna be able to be delivered for a while, so we switched it to two, obviously smaller tanks, which are more readily available. They talked about 6 weeks maybe, is that?
Oh, wow.
Yeah, what they told us was the one 500-gallon tank is sort of a custom tank, and it's gonna take forever to get it. And then they said, but you can go down to the local yard and buy 200-gallon tanks. So their advice was to do two 200s, and we did all these calculations at the table to make sure capacity was there and so forth. It is. So that's the kind of decision that we're making on the spot. And then the point is, a team 12 years from now, when one of those tanks fails, you're not buying a custom tank, you're saying, go get another one. Right? So those are the kinds of things that are emerging out of the conversations that we're having,
That's
so.
a smart move.
But we have to have oil for the boiler, because that's where the hot water is coming from currently, so you can't, you kinda gotta hang in there. We're also keeping a really close eye on it, cause what we don't wanna do, we topped that tank off in the summer at last year's oil price, and we wanna drain it as close to zero as we can. We don't wanna come and put 1,000 gallons into it. We really wanna, so we're monitoring that. Dave is keeping an eye on that amount.
I hope we don't have to put anything more into it. I don't think we will, because as soon as the 8th grade comes offline, that you're no longer heating from oil, the 8th grade wing, so you're only down to the hot water, which really shouldn't be that much oil going into that. So, goal is not to fill any more oil at LMS.
Excellent. Emergency Management Committee.
Sorry, one other question.
Oh,
Is part of
sorry.
the scope of work, maybe it's during next summer, but is it to pull the oil tank out? Which
Oh, yeah.
we heard was red taped and all that jazz.
No, part of the scope is to remove it from the ground. And what they said is, the best case is to remove an almost empty tank, because you do have to pay to suck out whatever's
Yeah.
left in it. So that's why we're trying to gauge it right down to the last drop if we can.
Yeah, so that could be before the summer, as long as there's
No dependency.
no frozen
Yeah.
ground type of thing, so,
Yeah, okay.
yeah.
Excellent. Emergency Management Committee.
Actually, I do have one. Are we still on yours? I do have a question about the, contract with North Branch. Was the amount that was signed different from what was on the warrant?
It was. So I've answered the question that's on the spreadsheet. So
okay.
the contract was signed by Corey. We went and accessed it. It's like, okay, who signed the contract to answer the question? And it was Corey. And the dollar amount was higher, than what the warrant article had. And the explanation that we've received is that, it was a combination of where the actual bid costs came in compared to the projected costs. And also, there was a reliance on, grant funds to do some of the projects, so that's why it was signed at a higher amount.
Anybody? Last call. Emergency Management Committee.
Defer to my, Dr. Jettie, I did not go to that last.
So we continue to meet monthly. We had our last meeting. All the EOPs are signed and submitted.
What's
and,
EOP mean?
Emergency operation plans.
Okay, got it.
So that work is done.
For all the schools?
All the schools, everything.
Inside and out?
Pardon?
Inside and out?
So the fields, talking about the
Fields,
fields?
yeah.
Michelle, were the fields part of this one, or was that in the future that they have to be part of?
No, they don't have to.
Are you sure? I swore I thought they had to do something
No,
about the
there-
fields.
There has to, I got clarification
The
from the
athletic
Department of Homeland Security.
That's
There
not till
has to
next year.
be an emergency response plan by the athletics department, but it does not have to be in the EOP.
Oh, okay, that answers.
And we
that.
do
not due
have
till,
that
like,
plan, we're
September
just
next year,
trying to
right?
figure where we put it.
Okay.
Yeah, so Josh has completed that, right?
Yeah, he
Yeah.
gave me the plan, I just don't know where we wanna put it. Maybe an athletic handbook or something like that might be the good place for it and publish it, yeah.
Excellent.
And our next meeting is on, 17th, I think we
Yes.
said today. And, radios will be part of our topic, obviously.
I'm sick of talking about
And
radios.
Wi-Fi.
When are they coming? Grading and reporting.
Heidi's not here, and I did not go to the last grading reporting meeting. But what I have learned is that, I don't know if Mary has mentioned this to the board, but, GMS is kind of sectioned off into their own grading and reporting committee.
Yeah, that was
because-
somewhere, I saw that somewhere.
Mostly because they were attending the district-wide grading reporting, and, you know, they were focusing on competency-based learning and competency-based grading, and most of the discussion was centered around, middle school and high school. And, you know, anybody who's taught in an elementary school knows that elementary school grading is not at all like middle school or high school. I spoke with Principal Mitchell about how that was working and how that's happening. So he's pulled together a committee, kind of their own, committee of teachers and the admins working in conjunction with Mary they're revamping, I believe, their report card. Cause right now their report card is based on the competencies.
Didn't we just get a new report card, like,
What happened was, they went to the competencies, the report card reports on the competencies, but it doesn't report how kids are doing at their grade level, how they're doing, you know, so what kinds of skills they've mastered, what's not yet met. So the parents are getting a report card that says, you know, math competency. Student is able to explain equations and how to apply them and blah, 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 but it doesn't answer how they doing with multiplication, that kind of thing. And that's what parents at that level are really concerned about. So they're reworking it so that it reports on the competencies, but also on the skills that they're mastering, which is part of competency-based learning.
which would
is
be
the
under
mastery of
each
those skills.
competency?
So that's a work in process, and that won't be ready anytime like this year, but that's been an ongoing process, so.
Joint Loss Management Committee, didn't meet. PERC, did Mary talk about PERC when she
Yeah.
was here earlier? Wellness Committee coming up, I swear I saw an
We
invitation.
just had a meeting
Seen
this
invitation?
week. I was not able to
Yesterday.
attend. Lauren held the meeting. I think there were about 6 or 8 people there, so that was good. No parents. We want parents to attend. We want community members to attend. The wellness meeting, there was discussion about there was a revised policy that was viewed. I think we're getting traction on the policy finally, and Lauren said that should be able to come to the board fairly soon. We do have a student who's doing her senior project, doing newsletter, and that I've seen a couple drafts of that, and it's due to go out, I believe, to students and staff. We'll also put it on the wellness page of the website, and so those were the updates.
Great. Town Capital Improvement Plan Committee.
Yep, we had a meeting, must have been last week, and, it was a very quick meeting. We are waiting for the library to present their needs, to to the committee, and, I spoke with Dr. Queenan from the select board about, the email from the select board and our response to that email, and, the last select board meeting, they discussed whether or not they're still requiring us to present to the select board. The select board had said, yes, they're going to stick to their determination that we need to present to them before we can present to the CIP. But we have not received any communication from the select board or Dr. Queenan on that. Aside from a verbal conversation that we had at the meeting. So that's where we are.
So we really know nothing
But
about the
it's a-
future potential timeline of
It's a
this.
key input into impact fees,
It is.
right? And so
planning
I'm
for the town.
thinking time is probably of the essence to get this figured out, so impact fees can be adjusted for the town, which also benefits the school.
But I don't understand why we need to get the selectmen involved, because we don't report to the selectmen, they have no oversight over our capital improvement. I have the RSA that was mentioned, there is no mention of the school that, I think it was brought up in RSA that, I think it was by Bob Leary, there is no mention of schools, it's all community things, I have to find it.
I mean, I'm looking back to when we didn't have a town CIP committee. I think the CIP committee has been very beneficial. I know it has for the planning board, just so that we all have our needs and our requests and, you know, what our plans are for the future for the town. So, you know, I think, you know, we have our plan, we're going to discuss it and approve it tonight. As I've said before, I'm willing to go and, you know, present it or send it to the select board. But the other piece of the pie is they're looking for proof that we're gonna be able to cover the deficit in fiscal year '23. And I don't know exactly what kind
Right,
of proof
that's
that
kind of my
is.
question,
Right.
okay, so one of us goes in front of them, or all of us, or some of us. What are the questions that they're gonna ask, and what are the responses that they're gonna find acceptable? And is there gonna be something else that they're gonna be requiring? I'd like to know more about what is expected, and what questions are gonna be asked, to know if it's gonna be sufficient, that's my question.
Will that impact your decision to participate in the town CIP? Whatever those questions might be? I mean, how does that impact the decision to go in front of the board and answer their questions?
Why do we have to go in front of the board?
I'm just saying,
Yeah,
that was the
No,
request.
I just am wondering if, like, we go in front of them, and then if they're not satisfied with the answers, then what happens, you know, like, are we just spinning
could
our
be
wheels?
they just-
Are we spinning our wheels, and
Maybe.
it doesn't really matter, you know, because when I went to the New Hampshire School Boards Association, I really was shocked, and, what this process is not the standard, it's just not the standard in the state, and, so that's why I really question, the need for
Yep.
this
I'm just
entire
worried that
process.
the email started with, I'm gonna call the police if you show up, that puts me on the defense right away.
What? I didn't even see
It was a
that.
previous email thread.
Saying if you show up, we're gonna call the police. I don't wanna go into that, my husband doesn't want me to go into that type of atmosphere.
Well,
That
and-
threw me off.
And also, I think there's something to be said for, they haven't, you know, we haven't received any information exactly on what they're looking for.
Right.
Exactly the questions that they want answered.
I'm afraid to go.
I'm not, I mean, it's not my first time of being.
Yeah, I
berated
mean,
in
I
public,
would even
but-
go and be the sacrificial lamb, but I don't think that.
But I think
Seriously,
too,
I
I
mean-
think if, you know, I understand that they're hearing from people that have questions, but have we received those questions from those individuals?
can
Have the
email
select
us.
board, you know, has select
Yeah.
board members come and asked us those questions, you know, so, I mean, we're all very busy, we have multitudes of committee meetings, but I think it's important that we do what we can for the benefit of the CIP and of the planning board, and for this town, that, you know, we're willing to set our personal differences aside and do what's right for the town.
That's what I'm coming back to, is given, yes, we can do it separately, I get it, and I appreciate that, and I agree with what you're saying. is it in the best interest of the town? And my-
Absolutely not.
And that's my answer as well, is no.
Neither is threatening the
I don't-
school board if they throw up,
I don't understand why the planning board can't just take our approved plan and add it in. That's what I don't
They
understand.
can.
They can, they're just
Yeah.
choosing not to.
It's,
That's
uh,
how I feel.
It's not the planning board, the planning board's
The
being,
capital improvement plan.
well, and they're being directed by the select board, so
They're a
in
subcommittee of the
fairness,
select
I think you have to, it's not about the planning board, it's not about the CIP committee members.
No.
It really is the select board saying you can't do this yet. And
So let's take a vote.
Yeah.
Let's solidify it and take a vote. All right, do we wanna go in front of the Board of Selectmen or not, or are we gonna just hand them our plan and say this is what it is? Let's put it to bed. Why continue to debate it?
I wish Heidi was here.
Do you wanna delay it till she's
No,
here?
I just would like to know the tone, what we're going into.
If you
If my
watch the last
integrity's gonna
select
be
board meeting, I
questioned-
think it's very indicative of the tone.
I don't want to set myself up for another,
So I'll make a motion.
okay.
My motion is to go in front of the Board of Selectmen, send 2 representatives from the school district, right? Consistent with our other practices for other meetings. It's not a quorum if we send 2, send 2. Be available to answer their questions, and move it forward for the benefit of the town.
I'll second.
So if this doesn't pass, I would be willing to consider it once I know what they're gonna ask. I mean, I feel like it's very open-ended, and like I said, I'm afraid that we're gonna go and then there are gonna be additional demands put on the school, that
I
yeah,
just
I
want
just
the
don't wanna.
tone to be friendly.
Yeah.
Or not friendly, cordial, or just this,
Respectful.
respectful. That's all I want.
See
But
what
I-
we get.
And I would also like to know from I mean, I truly don't understand why if we, like I said, there are every other town that I approached a handful of them, and I spoke to the attorney of the School Boards Association. This is not standard. It's not standard. So what I'm wondering is, what is the standard? So, and I don't know if that's something that you could research, or,
We need to. Let's just take the vote, right? That'll be the deciding factor of whether we hand them our plan and say, this is it.
Technically, we don't
Or
have to.
we go,
Right.
we go in
And
front.
Andrew has asked. if
We agree
will
the
do it.
information I have right now, I don't think we have
Right,
to.
I agree. Legally, we don't
We
have
don't
to.
have to,
Right,
but
and we all
should
agree
we
with
go
that.
forward in good faith, hoping that we have a productive environment?
So should this pass, who here is willing to go? I'll ask that question.
It
Gina's a
depends when the
member.
meeting is. I don't know when their next meeting.
I do. I think it's, no, we meet the 17th. Mondays, right? So I think is it the 14th? Let me Google.
If it's the 14th, I could make that work. If it's the 7th, no, I can't.
So we're,
So the info I have, just the latest info, is
Yeah.
that the CIP meeting is on Monday night the 7th, and that's the last scheduled CIP meeting.
So there's no selectmen meeting before the actual
Well,
CIP?
Best to my knowledge.
So
There
the
has to be another
CIP is-
meeting, because they still have to hear from the library, they still have to vote on the final plan. There's several other meetings that will be,
What,
be scheduled.
what I was told was that the library's presenting Monday, and then they're gonna vote. So the hope is that the Monday meeting is the last meeting.
so
what I was
they
told.
asked,
We don't have
so
time to-
have they asked if we could present? Will they allow us to present?
Well, so
And at this point,
it's, the timeline has sort of gotten ahead of everybody at this point, so,
So it's a moot point at this.
But if we vote tonight on the CIP plan, which is an agenda item coming up.
correct?
We still have representation on the CIP by Ms.
Correct.
Harrison. We can still go in and say, here we go, let's present what we have, this was
Correct.
board approved, and then go to the Board of Selectmen the following week.
Correct.
Great, that sounds like a game.
well, if the Board of Selectmen
If
will
they'll
agree to
let.
that,
Yeah.
at this point in time, they
They've
have
invited us to come in and speak to them.
But they,
not to the CIP. They have
Right.
explicitly
We have to go to
told
them
us we are
first.
not to present to the CIP
Until
without
we
going
go
to
to
them
selectmen.
first.
and that's where the threat,
Yes.
So I think,
Right.
I think what we do then is we respond to the board and say, what we would like to propose is to come and answer your questions at your next scheduled meeting, but recognizing that it's after the CIP meeting, we'd like to come and present our plan to CIP and then to yourself at your next scheduled meeting.
Will you draft that and send that to the board? I'm serious.
Sure?
Thank you. If the board approves it.
So if they agree to those conditions, I think,
Look, there's no other choice.
right, exactly.
Can they rescind
to
our
go around.
CIP plan then? They have no right to, we've
No.
already
No.
presented it.
Right.
And then you just run it separate. But again,
But at least
And-
they will have it for reference when
that
we're
is not,
discussing it.
that is not in the best interest of the town.
It is not, but neither is the tone that was set prior to that meeting.
Yep.
If they can agree to a cordial environment, they don't even have to smile. I just want people to be respectful of each other.
Exactly.
Not raising voices, not being accusatory. I'll meet with anybody, but I don't wanna fight with anybody. I don't wanna be yelled at by people for volunteering time in town.
I will draft an email and send it to
Thank
the
you.
board tomorrow for consideration.
So the CIP committee meets on Monday, and then we present to the select board on the following Monday, the 14th.
We being
The
this.
CIP,
Who's we? Is Doug going?
town CIP. That all depends, I guess, on our Monday meeting and what happens.
But if there's questions, there should be 2 school board representatives there.
I don't know.
Well, Doug and I will be there.
It's at the CIP meeting?
No. Monday night, so the 7th, next week,
It's a CIP
is the
meeting.
CIP meeting
Yes,
where
and
we're
Doug will be with
finalizing,
you.
and I'm, Doug,
I can
I
be there,
assume?
yep, this
Yes.
Monday coming up. Yep.
yes. And then the week after that, the CIP is presenting the capital improvement plan to the select
selectmen.
board.
Okay.
I think, and then after that, the next step is to present it to the planning board. And that's
Have we
where,
ever?
In
why
my
do
view,
we-
it was the other way around. In my view, it's the planning board first, and then the board has the final adoption. Cause the way it
sure
worked,
that's, I'm not sure that's the schedule though.
the way it worked in the
Yeah.
past, and maybe it's changed, but
Maybe
it
I'm
was
wrong.
the planning board for review,
Correct.
then it was a public hearing on the plan itself, and then it went to the board for adoption.
Okay, let me look up in my big calendar where I can see that.
I don't know if that's changed,
Okay.
but
I think that sounds right.
Okay, but regardless, the next step is to email the select board. Yes?
Are we gonna have a vote? Does anyone have a motion?
I made the motion,
Oh,
and it was
sorry.
seconded.
Does anyone second the motion? You
I
seconded?
did.
Michelle, did you get the motion?
I would like to amend the motion that this is conditional upon the email from that you're gonna draft saying that, that we go to that we need to go to the CIP first and then the selectmen after because of the dates of everything.
Okay.
So I'm making that motion to amend it.
I second that.
Okay.
Is that
Are we clear on the motion, or can we just replay the whole thing?
Yeah, we restart that
Yeah,
with
'cause
all the
it's
right
now all
words?
jumbled up in my
Yeah.
mind.
Made a motion, Andrew made a motion to send 2 board members and 2 representatives from the district, excuse me, to go before the Board of Selectmen and be available to answer their questions.
Right.
Maybe we don't want two. We don't,
No.
maybe, well, I guess that would be Doug and Tina anyway, so.
I think we want 2.
Okay.
My recommendation is for 2.
School board members.
2
School board
school board
members.
members.
Do Doug and Dr. Jetty both have to go?
No.
Can we give them?
To the select board meeting?
Yeah.
I
I-
don't think
I-
Doug or Dr. Jetty
No.
need to go.
That's correct.
Okay.
I don't
That
believe
was
they need to
Then
go.
Right.
of the
Okay.
board, not of Dr. Jetty and
Yeah.
Doug. And as employees,
Okay,
I don't wanna add to their already
right,
crazy schedule
Yep.
of nighttime meetings.
okay.
So you just wanna make it 2 board members and no district reps at the
To
board.
For the
To
Board
the
of
Board of
Selectmen.
Selectmen, but
The
the
selectmen
CIP,
meeting. Okay.
Tina and Doug.
So this motion is for the Board of Selectmen.
Yes.
Okay, so the amendment would be the same motion, except not 2 district reps.
No,
To the
still two, but just,
To the CIP.
understanding the timing is going to the CIP first before going to the
Okay.
select board.
Got it,
Because of scheduled meetings.
Because of schedule.
got it.
Are we clear?
Well, that was a long, roundabout way of doing that.
I was a little confusing, but I'll get it there.
Got it, okay,
All
so
right.
is there a second on the
Second.
amendment? Okay, Liz seconded.
So again, the amendment's the same as the original plus an email.
Right, exactly.
Got it.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I'm still thinking. Aye. Opposed, abstained.
Did you vote, Tina?
Yeah.
Oh, okay, all right.
400.
Emails in motion.
I called it a proposal, if, unless you want me to just say, I could say email proposal. Right, he's gonna draft an email,
Sure.
the board is gonna
Yeah.
say yay or nay.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a proposal on how you're gonna who you're gonna approach first, and then I'll really elaborate it.
But the dates are confirmed, they're not, those aren't proposed.
Right. I do have in my notes too, as well as my calendar, that CIP meeting on the 7th, the 14th CIP presents to the BOS, 15th present to the planning board.
So it is
Oh,
off by
okay.
today.
So what is the date that the board members are going to the selectmen?
14th.
14th.
The 14th.
Incidentally, the CIP will also be at that meeting to present to the school, to the select board.
And then when are they going to the CIP?
Well, Doug and I are.
The
so
7th.
We have a meeting on the 7th.
7th.
CIP?
Yeah.
But you're not presenting the report, you're gonna hand them the,
I don't know, we don't know
what
what
you're
we're
gonna do
presenting
yet?
where.
Okay, got it, okay.
All right.
Can I just clarify the email proposal? Andrew's emailing who?
Select board.
No,
All-
I'm emailing the board
The
to
board.
review it.
Right, and
Yeah.
then that will go to the select board.
And then the board.
I think
All of the
Liz
select
should
board,
send
the
that.
chair of the
I
select
think the
board?
chair should send that.
Because typically it's chair
Or
to chair.
however-
But
Right.
Tina asked you to do
Right,
it?
I'm drafting the email. I'm not the one sending the email,
Okay.
because I feel like that's not.
Yeah, I can come.
We all, I think
Yeah.
we all should put our eyes on it. I
Yeah.
have 100%
And
faith
at
you
what
can
point will
draft
we
one.
be involved in it? Me, Michelle, Doug?
Do you need to be involved in it?
Just the communication. I mean,
Yeah.
what ends up happening is communication
Right.
occurs.
Yeah.
We're not included in the loop, and then there's an expectation of us somewhere down the road, and we're like playing catch up. So I just don't wanna play
All right,
catch
so
up.
whoever sends it, copy.
Yeah.
Dr. Jettie and Doug.
Michelle.
Well, I think, Mike, you were also planning on going to the CIP meeting to present as well, right?
I mean, we
If-
presented to, facilities, the bulk of the work was done, the three of us really,
And then through facilities.
and then
we
through
tighten it up.
facilities with corrections and so forth, but I mean, I can take a night off, I'm
I know.
okay with that, but I
Well,
just,
let's see, can we see where the email
what I
gets
don't
us?
want is you're presenting somebody else's, and
Yeah.
it's like, well, why is this, I'm not
Right,
sure.
right.
We don't want any of that, we
No.
wanna be able to answer
No.
it, so,
Right.
I just wanna make sure we know.
We all set? We all understand? We all have our dates? We're gonna get, Andrew's gonna get back to us on the date?
I'm gonna get back to you with the draft email.
First, yes,
That is
that's
my
the perfect,
deliverable.
all right, that's
Step
your
one.
check.
And Liz, if you send that out to the chair, you can CC Doug and Mike. The rest of the board, thank you.
Sorry. Oh my God, where are we? Approval of
New
no,
business.
New business policies?
policies, JI, student rights and responsibilities, JINHSBA, first reading.
I'll make a motion to approve JI, student rights and responsibilities.
Second.
All those in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained, 400.
I did actually look, Guilford has that same, it's the same language.
And their soccer players all bleached their hair tonight, it was really crazy. Policy JEB, age of entrance, approval for a first reading.
Make a motion to approve policy JEB for first reading.
A second? All those in favor?
No, hold on.
Oh,
The only change I think was that,
It's
was
the
in
italics.
italics,
Yeah.
incoming,
Correct.
it was related to transfer students, grade K and one,
Ah.
placed in accordance with the above chronological age requirements.
So that would be if someone moved in from another state or
Could be another
district?
state or what,
different rules.
the reason the recommendation is there is because more and more students are enrolling in an alternative school, a charter school, and so in some cases, those
Age
schools
doesn't
don't even
matter.
have,
Yeah.
they don't even have policies in place. And so this just allows us to make sure that our traditional approach is honored. The policy's pretty clear about the principal being able to make that placement. But this was a way to button it up as the educational landscape sort of changes and morphs.
Just for consistency, second paragraph, can we add in brackets the number 5? Just like the top with number 6.
Whoa, wait a second. Which paragraph, Andrew?
Second paragraph
The kindergarten.
will be
Oh,
5.
I see what you're saying.
Yeah.
Yes.
Thank you.
Catch.
Oh, I didn't see that, okay, yeah.
We had a first and a second. All those in favor?
As amended, aye.
As amended, aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstained.
Also I, sorry.
I figured.
What?
Also
She
I.
said also aye. She mumbled it.
I was a
heard it.
little late.
All right.
As amended. And you got those, Michelle? Great.
Got it.
Approval of district capital improvement plan.
So, you have the link to the plan. It really has not changed since the last time that we presented it here and discussed it. And even when you look at it, it has like LMS fields, it says new. New means that it wasn't on the current 5-year plan that's now being updated. It's not that we've added that new since we last presented it. So I don't wanna walk everybody through it again. I think the priority areas reflect the conversation that we had. And I think we just need a vote on this so that if we get to the presentation stage, or if we adopt this as our plan, that the board has actually voted. I'm also wondering, I mean, we can certainly proceed ahead with a 4-0 vote, or I'm being presumptuous as I state that, but, you know, we do have one board member not here tonight, so, but I think is due in a little bit, so maybe we could circle back to it so that all members have a chance to weigh in and have a vote recorded, just a suggestion.
I guess we can wait till after the school board comments and see if she's here. Is that fair? Andrew?
I'm gonna make a motion to delay the vote of this, or is that not necessary?
Hoping that Ms. Ames, I mean, there are 4 of us here.
I'm good with continuing, so, I mean.
Okay, yeah, I'm fine with the CIP.
Well, I mean, there's 2 items I'm not fine with.
Okay,
And that's specifically stadium turf field and stadium field lighting, both
Talked
low on the
about taking those off.
priority list.
Going on the what?
CHS stadium turf field,
Yep.
as well as CHS stadium field lighting. Turf field for 2.4 million and stadium field lighting for
doesn't have-
390,000.
The one that's linked doesn't have the changes that we made.
I don't recall actually making those changes, so my recollection, we'll have to go back and look at it.
We did though, because we didn't prioritize by high, medium, and low. We prioritized by urgent, necessary.
Oh, this
You know what?
might be a previous version.
That's a
Let me
previous
You're
look.
right,
version.
Let me
I
look.
forgot that we redid that
I'm
column, so.
sorry, let me look, that,
Cause I was surprised to see the CHS Fields,
I don't,
no, CHS Energy Project.
it's funny you
Free.
say that, because when I posted it, I was like, this doesn't look right, but maybe it is,
Yeah.
and so
Pure
it's.
All right,
let
why
me
don't we
just-
post this to,
Yeah.
postpone this till later on?
Let us
Things like
I
that.
think we did a wrong link,
Yeah, it
so.
does.
Yeah, I think
Right,
I-
right,
Find the
later
right
on
link.
tonight.
Maybe we can't approve it
9:23, I
tonight.
think this is it.
Okay,
all right, we're gonna move
to be
that.
continued.
And go down, is this turf?
That's what I'm gonna do. Hang on.
Yeah, so we found the one that has
I
urgent.
found it, I'm sorry, my fault.
No, no worries. So
I'm
it'll
gonna
just be-
relink this right now.
It'll relink to
And
the
is
agenda.
turf field still there, or did we delete it?
I don't think,
But we
no,
haven't
it's still
reviewed
there, it's desirable, we
I'm
said
gonna review it right now.
desirable.
I mean, I've reviewed it, but
So we'll relink this and we'll walk through it, and if we can wait.
I'm gonna make sure there's not one more in here, but I'm pretty sure that's it.
You wanna move on to the second readings and then get those done, and
Sure,
then
I'll
while
make a
she's
motion
doing
to
that, let's keep the
approve-
moving
Yeah.
going.
I'll make a motion to approve JCA, JJ, and JJJ policies.
I second,
Second, yes.
third, all those in favor?
Aye.
Aye,
See, that was easy.
Opposed, abstained, look at that, bam, done.
there, good.
I just wanna get in here.
I'm gonna relink this right now.
We're gonna wait for her to relink, I would like to
You
do
wanna talk
that.
about the independent audit?
Or can,
Do them all?
You can keep going.
yeah,
Okay.
let's just keep
depending on or even
going.
COVID, right?
Yes.
Yeah,
You can keep going, I can.
All right, Independent audit.
So there should be comments from everybody on your document that you created at this point in time.
Is there?
No
I
longer my document, though. This is now
Ooh,
moved to the school board document, so yes.
haven't looked at it in a couple days.
I
Are there
did
doc-
not add any comments. I thought your comments were
Oh,
great, and I
okay.
thought Andrew's were
Yeah.
great too. I didn't think anything, I think you covered a lot in both of your comments. I really appreciated the time that you put
When did
into
you
it.
add your comments? I don't know that I saw them.
They were,
Monday, I think.
Okay.
And then
I think I
Heidi added
Sunday.
some.
And I added some, and then I went back and made a correction after Michelle added some.
Right.
Okay.
I just added one.
So I was gonna suggest that Doug, but maybe it's one of us, if this is our document now, take all the comments that are here and put it into like a proposed, goals document, like that we could show a potential independent
I'd also
audit.
like to take a vote, right? And I'd like to take a vote on the need for an independent audit. Because I think there's mixed feelings on that in the board, and we've sent mixed signals to the SAU. And I think we need to be clear directionally as a board on whether this is actually needed or not.
Well, and I think part of that was the cost of it.
We don't know the cost.
right,
So I
that
think,
was a big thing for
did
me.
we vote to authorize you to get quotes, or?
We,
Not yet.
no,
Just the
We
questions.
needed to get our act together and figure out exactly
we
what we
wanted to know.
wanted.
Got it, okay.
So
So-
I thought there was consensus, so I'm fine with that, yeah, go ahead.
I'd like to make a motion to move forward with an independent audit of the financial deficit that was reported to the town on September 19th in the public session.
I'll second that.
Discussion?
Let me catch up. Of deficit reported to,
The town on September 19th at the public, that was the correct date, right?
Yes.
September 19th, yeah.
okay, got it. And who seconded that?
I did,
Town?
Tara.
Tara.
yeah.
But I think we
Got it.
all agree that it's pending what the cost would be, right? I think if it's going to be, I think it is definitely worth moving ahead on this in order to have, a report, an official third-party
Correct.
report, done outside of anything the board has anything to do with. I appreciate that. My concern is we're already in a very strapped budget this year, and we need to find the funds to cover it in this year's budget, in addition to the deficit that we already have. So I think we need to agree on a dollar amount
To not exceed.
to
Yeah,
not
yeah.
exceed.
So thank you, Michelle, for putting in that document. It was what, almost close to $20,000 for
Each
the
year.
independent, for our regular
Regular
audit.
audit.
So me,
Yes.
just proportionally, it has to be less. I feel like it needs to
Will
be
be
less
less
than
than-
that. You know,
One fund.
to me,
Right.
I don't know. If I had to throw a number out, I would say not to exceed $10,000. Like that's my first. So just throwing that out there for what people think.
I don't know that we need to go that far with this, right? Because we don't even have estimates, right? And the estimates, if there are estimates received, would come back to the board for review,
Right.
right? So not to exceed makes no sense to me right
Yeah.
now,
Okay.
right? Because we don't even have any estimates.
Then we vote.
And then you vote on that.
To pursue. So what was your motion exactly? Can you read out?
Motion was, excuse me, to move forward with financial audit of the deficit reported to the town on September 19th, 2022.
So I think
Independent,
Moving
the
forward.
independent audit, we can amend it to clarify if the board would like.
yeah, I'd also
A
like to make an
proposal- a
amendment.
I'm
proposal
going off the top of my head with those
Yeah.
motions, so.
Yeah.
I'd also like to make an amendment to pursue getting estimates, right? We're not pursuing getting the
Right.
audit.
There
We're
you go.
pursuing
Yeah.
exploring costs associated
I like
with.
exploring costs.
And
I
we have to
agree.
finalize the scope too. I mean, I think
Yeah.
generally we're, from the comments and that agreement.
Right,
Pretty
so
aligned,
if
pretty
this
aligned.
goes positive,
Yeah,
then we can nail down scope.
Yeah.
Right, what I didn't have any sense of going into this discussion tonight is whether we had actually board consensus and agreement that this was even needed.
oh, I thought we did.
I think
But
on
anyway,
that
I'm
document,
fine.
everybody
Yeah.
indicated that it was a valuable
Yes.
thing if it's not cost prohibitive.
Yeah,
And that was my read on it. I don't know
That's
if
what
anybody else.
the feeling I got was.
All right,
So,
there's a motion and
the
a second.
motion-
Was there a
The,
revision?
do you
or-
want the amended motion to be, and you wanna call it independent audit, not financial, correct?
I'm just going with what the agenda item is, so.
I'm just clarifying, cause you mentioned financial, so, alright, alright. So, the amended motion, something to the effect of, to explore costs of an independent audit.
Related to the financial
related to the
deficit
Financial deficit.
reported to the
town on
town.
9/19, and define the scope of that?
No,
No,
that's
we'll do
something
that
that,
later.
that's
We're
something
gonna
the
do
board
that.
needs to do after.
Gotcha,
Yeah,
That's an action
Okay.
item.
got it.
all right, say it clearly one more time.
here we go.
Okay, amended the motion to explore costs of an independent audit related to the financial deficit reported to the town on 9/19/22.
Okay.
Excellent.
I think that's clear.
Call for
Any
a
more
vote?
discussion or?
Discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed?
Sorry, yes, I.
Yeah.
Also an I.
You're an aye. Did
Abstain.
you second that?
I seconded it,
Yes.
yes.
4-0-0. Awesome. Oh, my favorite topic, COVID.
So hold on.
Yeah, now we need to go back to scope.
Yeah.
Oh, all right.
Right, now we need to go back to scope. I think the only area of, I guess, disagreement
I wanna
was
read this document.
point number 3.
I looked on Sunday and there were no notes, and now there are, so I'm getting
Oh.
caught up.
Okay. I gotta pull it up myself.
I think it's gonna take more than a few minutes to
Yeah.
narrow the
Yeah.
scope
Yeah.
after
There's
looking
a
at all the
lot
questions.
here.
There were a lot.
Yeah. When's our
Carry-
next meeting?
What did you say?
I said, when's our next meeting? 17th?
16th.
So let's, I wanna make sure this is justice. I don't wanna punt it, but I wanna make sure
Yeah.
we have the scope very tightly defined.
Right. Can we do it as a working doc?
It is one.
It is
Right.
a working doc for the school
Can
board.
we add a page and
Summarizing it?
summarize it and circulate it that way? Do we need to vote to approve the scope, or?
I
Will it
think
take
once
a
you
full-
have the scope, you'd have to.
Once we have the scope, so we'll bring that forth at the next meeting. I think that's a lot of information, cause I didn't even know someone else added after you.
Yep, so at our next session then, let's finalize the scope.
Right,
We can
we've
have that
agreed
be
on
the
it.
agenda item.
Yep,
Once the finalized scope is there, then we can research the pursuit of finding somebody to come in and do it.
Do you want me to take a stab at putting all the comments together, like in one?
I think-
like a one-pager type thing that
That'd be
could
great.
potentially be
Thank you.
used?
I think the
I can do it.
reality
I'll just do it
here,
as like the next page,
Right.
you know?
Yeah.
Okay. I'll
the
do that.
reality here, right, is that everyone, including the board, wants direct answers, right?
Correct.
I'm no
Yeah.
different. Now that this is going into mid-November, and we're going to then try and find somebody over the holiday season,
before tax season, before
the
everything, yeah.
reality is, and I'm just thinking out loud here, please dispute or challenge me on it. The reality is, you're not gonna get somebody in here probably before February to actually look at this independently,
We won't have a report on it till April, May,
at
June.
least.
when we'll have the other auditors report in March.
Correct.
Yeah, but it's gonna be it's going to be different.
I'm just trying to give you a sense of
I
timing.
get it.
No,
I
it
get
definitely
it.
will, it will be different, cause the auditors are only gonna report.
The
so-
one
Yeah,
thing.
I still think it's critical. I mean, yeah, I mean, did I
think
want
we
it
need-
earlier? Yes, but
We
the
want
reality
answers.
is.
Well, we want
yeah.
answers, and we want, this is a big step in rebuilding that trust
And
from
transparency.
the town,
I agree.
so.
But that means probably timeline-wise, we
Mhm.
won't have this for several months.
Yeah.
Okay?
Any other comments? You all said anything?
I'm good.
I like where we're going here. COVID plan.
Just
One more.
make sure I'm clear on this, so you're gonna write the scope out to be voted on next time.
Right.
I'd suggest you put it into like an RFP sort of format, because then you're communicating
Yeah.
the scope really clearly to people who might be interested in doing the work,
Do
right?
you
So
have a template that maybe we can use for that?
we can share like the RFPs that we've sent out for
Yeah.
other
Okay, yeah,
projects,
that'd
and
be
if
great.
you just,
Yep.
you know, adopt that format.
Okay, I'll take a stab at it.
Excellent. Excellent.
I relinked the capital plan, just so you know.
Thank you.
Okay.
So we good to go back to capital plan now?
You can go wherever you want, I just wanted to let you know.
Or do you wanna
I
wait for Heidi?
Linked it.
She said approximately
8:30.
That's it, yeah.
We
Let's,
still have
let's do the rest of the stuff.
All right.
We have the COVID number. But then, oh, Liz, we talked about having Andrew present under school board comments, but we want Heidi there for
We
that too.
definitely want Heidi there
Yeah.
for that.
Yeah, so let's just keep doing
Okay.
and do,
Let me see
I
if I
agree.
can
those two things.
see where she
You know,
is.
you could go into non-public and then come back out,
Oh, I see.
Yep.
so,
But then it won't be on camera.
could, we could,
just wait
we could go into
outside.
non-public and conduct our business and then reconvene.
I don't wanna sit here wasting half an hour. I'm gonna text
Text
Heidi and
and
see
see where she is.
I
If
don't know if
she's
you
on
wanna
her
do
way
community
or-
input, as it's close to 8.
Oh, thank you.
Oh, good call.
You could
Community
recess,
input?
too, for a little bit, if you wanted to.
Community input?
We wanted to hear the CIP, before we commented on it.
Ah,
I do have a question. Yes, we do.
Please
Come
come
up.
forward and
Community
state your
input.
name and address.
Statler and Waldorf.
No, be prettier.
I don't know my name.
Yeah, Kathy Snyder,
You're our biggest fans.
Howard Drive, yeah. Mayflower Drive, Litchfield. There was a comment about an athletic director, was that looking into hiring an assistant or expanding his job earlier?
It was in the correspondence.
You're nodding yes, I guess I need a whole explanation.
You wanna go for that?
So at last night's budget presentation, the you weren't there, right? Remind me, I'm trying to
I was
remember.
watching you, but I wasn't
Okay,
there.
fair enough.
Listening.
So,
Really.
at that presentation, the high school has proposed that the athletic director become a full-time district-wide position, and that it would be covering athletics in middle school and high school. And that the part-time PE position that we've been unable to fill, and when it's been filled, by the way, there has been a revolving door. I think there have been 3 people in that position over 5 years, because part-time people will look for a full-time job and take it. And so, so what they're proposing is to make that a full-time position, hoping that we can get greater stability in the department. So the athletic director would no longer be teaching. The athletic director would be a full-time athletic director and focused on athletics. There was an email that came from the athletic director today to
which
the
that
board,
was the summary,
Yes.
where he indicated the types of things that he would be available to do in a full-time position. So he indicated bird dogging student grades and paying attention to helping student athletes. We have, 10 or 12 a year who go on to play collegiate sports, so
I'm gonna
that,
interrupt you.
helping them and so
Okay,
forth.
okay.
So that's
Athletics is great.
the proposal.
Okay. We also have performing arts students who go on year after year, become teachers, become chorus directors, the whole 9 yards. I'm not singling out anything, but you're talking about cutting a section of portion of
Reduction
performing
in
arts.
force.
And again, and I love Josh, he's a great guy. Athletics is taking priority. I personally have an issue.
I just wanna be clear on that, if I may. They haven't taken priority, cause it's not in the budget yet, and the board needs to decide whether we're gonna add it to the budget, which we may not.
It's just a
it was a
proposal.
proposal.
It's just a proposal,
Okay,
it's not in the
okay.
budget at all.
Principle of the
It's,
high
here's an idea, this is what we think might be helpful for our department. Will the board consider adding it into the FY '24 budget, which we haven't done?
Okay, and that was what we were asking for clarification for. And we sat here a month ago and heard, well, maybe it was 2 months ago, that's it, no more projects. 10 minutes into the conversation of no more projects, we gotta look at the sports field, because they're in rough shape. We're yo-yoing. This is what you said you're trying to avoid. Consistency, transparency, communication. That's what we're looking for. Oh,
I didn't even have to
thanks.
say
Just there for support.
Well done.
No, I was gonna say
Come
something.
get some fish
But
sticks
they
tomorrow.
were answered.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We do COVID numbers then?
We certainly can.
COVID numbers.
Let me go.
Heidi says she's still planning to be here for 8:30.
Great.
Perfect. So, just quickly, at GMS, so the attendance this week has been kind of on the low side. We're at 9.1% absent, and today we crossed the 10% threshold that put us in the high range. What they're seeing is a lot of the influenza A, an awful lot of the RSV, respiratory virus, and then there are some COVID cases. If you look, there's only one COVID positive student as of Monday. I don't have a count for yesterday or today. But, so it's really not COVID that's causing it, there is still a lot of sickness. And talking with the nurses today, so I talked to one nurse, I should say, but we're almost back to like pre-pandemic. Like, if you're sick, stay home, and stay home as long as you're sick. And I can't emphasize that point enough with parents, because it doesn't matter that it's only a respiratory virus. We don't want it in the schools. So, it doesn't matter that, well, we tested negative for COVID, it's just influenza A. We don't want it in the schools. So, go back to the practices that we had pre-pandemic, which are, if you're sick, don't come to school, wait until your symptoms have improved, wait until you're not on medication to get your fever down. You know, those are the things that we simply have to revisit, because it's gonna keep everybody healthy. Right now, our attendance rates at GMS are high. Our absence rates are high, and I think we just have to keep pulling together and doing what we can. If we flip over to LMS, you can see LMS yesterday had 40 students out. That's 11.3%. And that was 2 positive COVID students. The rest of it is the influenza and the other respiratory illnesses. So I think, again, same message, please stay home and wait till you're better. The high school continues to have the best numbers in the system. So they were low on Monday, and they did rise up to medium over the last 2 days. We do have 1 positive staff member there and 2 positive students as of today. So, but I think the high schoolers, it's just a little bit of a different ball game in terms of being in each other's space. So, any questions for me or comments on COVID? It's really morphing beyond COVID, and I
It
just
is.
think that's important. When you watch,
Stomach bugs, lots of runny noses, lots of dry coughs.
and when you watch the news right now, and they're highlighting where hospitalization rates are high, you know, it's, again, pediatric hospitalizations have really spiked, but it's not COVID related. It's all the other respiratory stuff that's going on, so.
That's great news, thank you. Positive.
Stay healthy, everybody.
You know, I do wonder if we, the other stuff wasn't as catchy because we were being careful and
Wearing
masked and hand
Definitely.
sanitized, and so it's like we've
Definitely.
relaxed, like it's over now, I don't have to hand sanitize, I don't have to wash my hands. You do, but anyway, it's just those reminders.
Yep.
I'm not gonna move on, everyone. The manifest. Manifest? Anyone get a peek?
How many signatures does it have?
Most, these
It has
have
1.
2.
How many links in
I haven't looked
These
at this
have
file,
1,
these have 2.
2.
Yep.
Alright, let's
Current
keep these
links.
moving. I'm gonna run it. I'll be right back.
Let's see, what else can we do while we're here?
mean, I am okay if the board wants to go into non-public and then reconvene. I understand that that may not be convenient for
Oscar?
others in the audience and for LCTV though.
I mean, gives a dedicated video of the presentation, because if I come back and then start a new video, then the audience
Right.
has a dedicated video to watch on the presentation.
Yeah.
So I mean, it jumbles up the timing a bit, but
So maybe we can do
Can we,
a walkthrough of the capital improvement, so I understand
Yeah.
all the.
Heidi has seen the new version.
She has.
Yeah, Heidi knows.
And approved it as a member of the facilities committee, so.
Okay, so that I think is a worthwhile effort.
Do you want me to project that
Yes,
for the
please.
public? Yep. You bear with me while I open it up,
Thank you.
and I will link
Okay.
up.
This is the one that was linked.
Really like these cover sheets, Doug.
All right. So let's make sure that we got this right after we did
Correct one.
editing.
Yes.
The last edit was made on September 29th by Michelle, and I think that was the day after the board met, or after facilities met. So make sure that we've captured everything correctly. So our number one item on the list as urgent is the land purchase for the new elementary school. And our intent is to put a warrant article out for a land purchase this March. That's been the intent of the board. I will have more updates for the board in non-public regarding that.
Are we on
Um,
CIP right now?
Yeah.
Sorry, okay.
But that's where we currently stand. The second highest urgent item is the new school, new elementary school, grades PK to 4. And our stated intent, last year we put $125,000 into the trust fund toward that. Our intent is to have another warrant article this year, asking for additional funds for that project. And then in March of '24, so this is the latest by a year, but in March of '24, to bring forward a warrant article for the new elementary school. And then the third item that is urgent to us is the renovation and repairs of GMS. And it's only urgent if the new school is not passed. Because if the voters say, no, we're not ready for that, or that's not the right way to proceed, we have a lot of money that we need to spend to fix that school up. It's just not in a good state of repair. And so we have that listed then in March of '25 as a $20 million project to do renovation and repairs and upgrades. But, you know, so that's the way it's laid out here.
That amount came from, Kyle Barker's
Correct.
report on what it would cost to renovate.
Correct.
And does that include all of the drainage work and the site work?
No.
And it's just the physical building itself?
I believe so. I think it does some correction of drainage, but it's not the full
Yeah,
scope
okay.
of what needs to be done. And it's still on a busy state highway. So next, category level are the priority levels, and here we have district-wide capital repairs. Our feeling is that we should continue to put $125,000 aside for eventual repairs. We will have really taken care of the middle school, so there aren't gonna be, I mean, there still could be some unknown thing that happens there. But my concern, frankly, is in addition to Griffin, it's the high school. As a 22-year-old building, the roof and other needs there are starting to fail. You know, we've replaced pumps in the ground and so forth. So we should continue to put money into the capital reserve fund going forward to make sure that we're positioned for repairs that may come along. LMS, there is a priority to get the pavement and the parking lot finalized. The underground drainage pipes there are failing. They need to be dug up and replaced. Again, they're 40+ years old. They're starting to rust out and undermine the parking lots. And so taking care of all the parking. There's also a very weird gradation there. If you look at the way you sort of step down from the school, the hill going from the main road where the buses pull in, it's really kind of a weird slope there, a lot of drainage issues. And so getting all that resolved and taken care of through there would make sense.
None of that can be ADA compliant too.
No.
That parking lot, I mean, those
I mean,
spaces
they-
are closer, but that can't be a compliant.
If you think about
right?
where the handicap parking is,
Yeah.
you know, you'd be
little
going
slab
30
of
miles an
pavement
hour
to get
by
up
the,
there, yeah.
by the time you're at the bottom of that ramp,
Yeah.
because that ramp just speeds
Yeah.
right on down there.
It's not
So
safe.
there are ADA, that's a good point, there are ADA things that need to be addressed there. So that's listed as a priority. Next up, our category is necessary. And in the necessary category, we have LMS gymnasium floor. We've been told that it's been sanded to the life of the floor. So it's been sanded down so many times, after 40 years, it needs to be replaced. In looking it up, they say that wooden floors last 40 years, 40 to 50 years. So it's not unusual that that floor will need to be replaced. So we have it on there as a necessary item.
Did you skip one?
Did I skip one?
CHS Energy.
I may have. Let me go back up one. Yep, my apologies. So, in no particular order, that's the LMS floor. So CHS energy efficient projects. And so we believe that the numbers are already continuing to bear out that the renovation at the middle school and the energy upgrades at the middle school are gonna pay for themselves in the long run and possibly in the short run. And so we should be talking about how to get better efficiency out of Campbell as a way to save money and also have upgraded systems at that school. So that's on the list as a necessary item. Next up is LMS fields. So fields in Litchfield are a premium. They're, you know, there's competition for field space. And we're probably the only middle school that is just in the woods and doesn't really have access to a field, ready access. So we're busing kids over to the high school, we're busing kids over to Dara, we're busing kids, I think, sometimes to Sawmill.
We had our playoff games for the soccer. We had them at Sawmill.
Sawmill.
Because the other ones were too bumpy.
There have been relocating, I think, maybe Brickyard, I'm not exactly sure there. And there have been concerns about going down through the woods to get to the GMS fields. So our sense is that what this is proposing is that we construct a field in front of LMS on the upper plateau. It seems as if, you know, holding out the plan that we may someday build an elementary school on that upper plateau, if that question gets answered and the elementary school is built elsewhere, now there really is an opportunity to have field space there so that students can use the space at their own school and avoid some of the moving around that goes on currently. And also under necessary is CHS irrigation. And we've seen where some of the systems there are starting to fail. And so we're proposing to get that irrigation brought up to current specs. What was put in the ground was really not a long-term solution. It wasn't the proper piping and so forth. So this would allow us to have the irrigation fields that are necessary. And then the last items on here are listed as desirable. And to the earlier point, it's the CHS Stadium Turf Field and the Stadium Field lighting. Desirable is the lowest level of the capital improvement plan. Honestly, I have said out loud, and I'll say it again tonight, that these items, in comparison to the other stuff on the list, really are at the bottom of the list, because it'd be nice if somebody came along and, you know, I mean, what is it, Powerball's 1.2 billion, so if somebody decides that they'd like to have a stadium field in their name after they win
First Phillips in
Powerball,
elementary school.
I don't know.
you know,
Is it drawing
but
tonight?
what if they say, I don't wanna donate toward an elementary school, I wanna donate toward a turf field? I think we'd be like, okay. But it's a nice to have thing, but certainly when you compare an appropriate educational facility for our youngest students against a stadium turf field. There's a reason why this is desirable and not urgent. And then at the very bottom of the list.
I agree, it's desirable and not urgent, but I would say the field lighting is probably a little step above the turf field, just because knowing that the games that we play, at least for football, all of the other teams, they're able to have their games on Friday night, and we can't at home. And having lights allows other it extends the playable field time. So I feel like that one is a slight bit more practical than
I don't think
the
it's practical at
expense
all.
of the stadium turf field. I do. It's our game field,
I think it's a great.
multiple sports have it.
Fundraiser
Use
activity.
it. Yeah. that'd be
Or bring in
awesome.
lights like they have been.
Yeah, the one.
No, they're not the same. You can't, there's a black hole in the middle of the field. It's not.
Yeah,
those-
they're
those
not the
portable ones
same
are
as,
not the same.
as
Every
stadium
high
lights.
school varsity team has one night game there using those lights, or I don't think the soccer team did.
So,
Oh, anyway.
if I could speak for a second to Tara's point, I've been attending games in my home district, right? My daughter's now on the cheerleading team for the middle school, and they go to the high school football games. And what I see there is 1,200 people on a Friday night that are at a game. I see a complete performance of the band. So there's another 50 students
It
who aren't on the
builds
football
community.
field who are there. It is absolutely community building. There's no doubt about it. You pull people together in a way that just doesn't necessarily happen on a Saturday afternoon.
Basketball
In the
games
same
used
way.
to be like that here on Friday nights, the whole town would go to basketball games.
And when the Merrimack Valley community decided to do this, the stadium field, it was a brand new field, it's not turf, it's grass, but it was a brand new field put in with lights. At the same time, there was an elementary school warrant article. And the thought process was, you need to couple together what the community's needs are and pull people together toward, this is what we're doing as a community. We are building the field, building the school. We're giving something to our high schoolers at the same time that we're providing an opportunity for our elementary students. So it was a comprehensive community ask that was put in front of the voters. And I think what do we have for stadium field lighting? What's our price tag? 400,000? Against a $35 million school, I know that's an extra ask, but it's a community building experience, and
I'd
so.
be happy for grass on the field at this point, or rototill and a start over, but because it's beat on all the way, all sports are over except for football, it's never gonna come.
There's just so many other
Yeah.
priorities, many other priorities on this list.
That strategy is interesting.
I hear you, I just, it
one
was,
town story,
it was the
yeah.
facilities committee that said, if all we keep doing is asking micro questions, we're not building overall community. Who do we wanna be as a community? And so now, looking back on it with 20 years of that stadium field, it's unbelievable that there are still, like I said, 1,200 people out there. And by the way, the football team, for 19 years, never won a game. I'm joking, they won a game here or there. They were not, people were not going for thrilling football.
Right.
Okay, they were,
Going
they
to
were
see their
going
friends
because,
and community, yeah.
that's it.
Yep.
So,
I hope for Powerball.
And I would argue that those were the same considerations that, in many respects were part of getting Campbell here. We moved into town and we wanted to support it because we wanted our kids having their own school and our own community. So this would help build that, so.
and then the rest of the items that are on the list are completed. So we finished the parking, taking it off the list. Energy efficiency at LMS off the list, renovation at kitchen off the list, or it will be off the list by next summer, Darlene, we promise. CHS gym bleachers off the list, and LMS additional classrooms are off the list because we've squeezed those out of the existing space. So, they were all on there, but they're gone, so.
How real are these numbers? Like when I look at replacement renovation of GMS for 20,280,000.
That came right out of Kyle's report. So Kyle had
Granted, that was 2 years ago now, or 1 year ago.
no, he did that like in December of last year.
Yeah.
So that
That's a
was
year
like
ago.
December, January,
Yeah.
yeah. But what he said, so he doesn't have as much a dollar amount.
Yeah.
It was it exceeds 60% of the
Right.
cost.
That's what I remember.
And that's how, cause I think that number is 60% of 35 million.
Okay.
So how real is that? I mean,
It's probably low, right?
well,
Well, it will be by
it
then.
goes into the question of,
Right.
you know what it'll be all the change orders. Yeah, let's do the renovation. 20 million feels better than 35 until you start into it, and now you're digging drainage and you're,
Well,
you
I
know,
think a lesson learned with LMS is placement of kids while a renovation's occurring.
Right.
Right? That's not part of this. So if you were to move forward with renovation, there's also a significant ask to put the kids somewhere while they're, because you're not doing that in 3 months. You're not doing that over a summer.
no, you're not. Although, what I think they would do is, it's not as complicated as LMS, because there would have to be new construction. And here it is, you zone that area off. That's not really impacting classrooms, other than there be some noise, because it's gonna be near the building.
Does that include the new construction? Or is that just?
That was
repairs?
renovation
That was-
addition.
Yeah, that
That's
was
an
right
addition,
out of
okay.
his report. I
Yep.
added everything up.
And then you would later go back and demo once you move into that space. So the sequencing of it is a little bit different than what we've done at LMS, but, I mean, Jen.
What would they save?
So,
30s building. It's historical.
yeah, you would save it, but you would have to bring it up to,
You'd have to bring it up to code.
you'd have to renovate it and bring it up to code. You put an elevator in and do all the things that are necessary. The gymnasium and the later 70s additions could be renovated, because that construction, at least there's some insulation in the walls, but like the single width stuff, the 50 stuff, that would have to be leveled off. And you're right, you can't level it unless you bring in a bunch of portables. You know, you can't just level it, you sort of have to sequence in time how you would go with it.
I just don't think that those costs have been put into this plan. I don't know.
For that particular item, you mean, or just in general?
For specifically the renovation and repairs.
I agree, that would cost more.
So I'm curious if it
So,
makes
like,
sense to
add a note.
increase it as a lesson learned from LMS.
I think that we discussed that with facilities, but that was the number that we had, the hard number that we had. You know, we would just be extrapolating and kind of.
Could you add a note in here saying these costs are not inclusive of any, you know, shuffling around that needs to
Relocation
happen?
of student population. Anyone have any comments about the?
So that number is 60%. It's slightly less than 60.
Okay.
So that's how that was determined. But, I mean,
Where those
if the
things
board wants us to increase that, we can certainly put a higher number in there.
I'd like to increase it to 25 million as a placeholder to cover your 60% and cover your costs of reshuffling kids.
Done.
I'm
I
comfortable
agree.
with that.
$25 million.
Possibly plus a little bit more.
Who is this? Oh, there's no seat for her.
Make room.
Oh, hold it, is she? You need a,
There's a seat right
you just move, is there a chair over there?
There's a chair right there.
Just bump the chairs down.
That was my chair from last week. Welcome, Heidi Ames.
So are we in a position to make a motion to approve this?
Yeah, are there any other suggestions or amendments that you wanna?
Everyone
I
all
mean-
set with?
Not any
yes?
additional, my comment on stadium turf field and stadium field lighting is different now that there's no dollar amount associated, but the description is still there, right? Because that tells me that this is an idea, we don't have it as a specific item 5 years out, it's just something that we're thinking through.
Yeah, kicking around.
We talked about taking those off the list, just knowing that the needs are so much greater as far as
Everywhere
connected
else,
with,
yeah.
with learning and other things like that. But then the thought was, you know, you wanna capture the whole town, and I think in every town that doesn't have turf, they talk about turf. Every town that doesn't have lights, they talk about lights. So put it on there, but like you said, Andrew, don't kind of place it in the next 5 years.
It's a plan, and I appreciate that.
Yeah. Andrew added about 5 million,
4.2.
4.2.
But who's
The
counting?
renovation of GMS.
4.8.
So the plug in for renovation of GMS was 20,800,000, which is about 60% of the cost aligned to what the architects have said.
Okay.
My thought behind that and increasing it was that doesn't include anything to do with redistricting or reshuffling our kids
Yep.
to other temporary spaces. This is not a 3-month project. This is likely a year-plus project.
Yep.
And we need to be able to have money in our budget to figure that out.
Okay. So what does that total bring it? What is the-
25.
Okay.
I just made it around 25.
Okay.
Excellent. Is everybody ready to vote? Anything else you want to add, Dr. Jettie? Nope. Motion?
Is there a motion and second?
No, not yet.
There's a
make a
motion
motion.
now.
Now there is.
I'll second.
All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Abstained.
So Heidi, for your awareness, on the CIP
Okay.
and the back and forth with the CIP committee and the Board of Selectmen, we had a conversation amongst the 4 of us to draft a letter to the Board of Selectmen that we'd like to come talk to the board and answer their questions, send 2 board members to their upcoming meeting on the 14th. However, the CIP is meeting November 7th. So as a part of that email, we'd like to request that we present the school plan that now the board just adopted on the 7th, with the expectation that we will also come to the Board of Selectmen meeting on the 14th to answer their questions.
Okay. And is everybody in favor of that plan to go to the Board of Selectmen?
That was voted
We
4-0-0.
voted to do that.
Okay.
As long as that sequence was,
Followed.
you know.
So tomorrow I
it
will
was-
circulate a
Those are when the
draft.
meetings are.
Sure.
I will circulate a draft email to the board, the chair will send it.
Okay. I mean, I certainly want to work with the select board. I
Yeah,
want
that's what- yeah.
to try to start to make some headway. Those are
I would like to start fresh.
some pretty strained relationships. Well, I think that
Yeah.
requires both sides willing to do so. I hope this is seen as a first step.
That's what I'm hoping
Yep.
as well.
And through the budget committee, I know that we've spoken about our chair meeting with the budget committee chair and the select board chair.
Right.
And I did extend that invitation to them, through the budget committee. The budget committee chair said he was willing to meet with
Right.
the chair. So perhaps when whoever ends up going to the select board meeting on the 14th could also extend that invitation, and you know, I think that that would be a next, you know, a follow-up
budget
step
committee
after.
Sure.
The budget committee chair has already said he would be willing to meet, and these would, you know, these are meetings that happened previously, from what I understand, so to pick them up, I think that would be
Sounds
very
good.
helpful.
And I would include, the superintendent and the town administrator in those meetings as well.
Yes, yep.
Okay.
Thanks for catching me up.
You're welcome.
School board comments.
So this is where we wanted to wait for your arrival.
Yes,
Done.
you're
Here we
here.
Where's the music? Dun, dun, dun.
No drama.
Okay.
No drama.
Well, when I hear we're waiting for.
The board has agreed to walk through the Excel sheet that I circulated last night. We wanted you present for it.
Okay.
Are you cool with that?
Yes, of course.
Can I ask one school board comment question first? Unrelated? In the past, we've had student representatives from the high school, from the student council, and we haven't had them
Good point.
yet this year. So I was wondering if we can, get that process
So,
going again.
a couple of things that are helpful for the board to know. There's actually a new law that requires student representatives on school boards. We were ahead of the curve. We did it beforehand. I met before the start of the school year with the high school and said, hey, you know, we're in compliance with this law. We need those people.
Yeah.
We're still waiting.
Okay.
So, So we have made the requests and the reminders, but if you remember, even in years past, it takes the student council time to kind of get up to
Yeah.
speed in the year, and then reps will be here. So I'll do another reminder. See
Are
if
we
can
not
get
in
somewhere.
compliance right now? Is there a grace period?
I mean,
or-
I don't think we're not in compliance because we've asked for it and we have that as kind of a standing expectation. You can't make somebody come, and
Right.
so the invitation has been out there. So,
That was all. Thank you.
thanks for the reminder though.
If we're ready, I just need to steal the HDMI cord.
Yep.
I looked at it today.
Did we already have our second community input?
We did.
I can't remember.
Yes.
Oh, it was when you guys came out. Okay, got it, thank you.
5 minutes of it.
No, it's fine.
For those of us who didn't watch the meeting last night, Andrew is doing his analysis. He had some questions, and were you able to work them out with Mrs. Messenger?
So the answer is no.
Okay. Are you seeing any clarity?
Our HR director, no. Our HR director did respond, however, we weren't able to coordinate today
Okay.
to actually talk, so we're hopeful we're gonna be able to do that tomorrow.
Great.
Part of the reason selfishly that I'd like to present this to the board tonight is I know we kicked around the idea of delaying decisions for a week. I don't know that I'm gonna be able to do that, right? And the reason for that is I'm on business travel next Monday through Wednesday, so I won't be able to join any sessions that are planned. And then additionally, for our next board meeting on the 16th, I will not be here. The 16th through the 20th, I'm traveling.
I would like to wrap this up Thursday night,
Definitely.
without a
I would
doubt.
like to
So
too.
with that being said, I'd like to take the opportunity to present it, share my thoughts, and that's all they are is thoughts as of tonight. They were all in the file. There's a tab that you all saw,
Yep.
labeled Cutter Thoughts,
Yep.
right? So I'm trying to be transparent. But let me walk you through this. I recognize it's small. I'll just keep it small for a moment, and then we can increase the size and just go through it structurally. So the soft file that was shared by Mr. Totten is represented on this original tab. Right, this is the hard file or the soft file that we all received. This is the format that it was in. It contains all the detail that we received in hard copy in binders as well. What I've done from that point and what I've done, excuse me, for many years is then taking a look at the budget across all of the departments, all of the lines. And to do that, what I do is remove all of the detail as highlighted on screen here, all the detail, but keep all the bold account numbers, right? And so the next tab over, the original without all the details, is just that. It's the entire budget without the comments as a part of each budget line. And this reconciles because I know the total of 2024 requested equals the total as presented on the original, which is 24,638,000. Right, so I know it reconciles compared to exactly what we received as the document originally. Are you with me so far?
100%.
What I then do to the original without details is I break it out by fund, by location, by function, and by subject, right? Which is a combination of the 10-digit account number or budget unit, as you see here, broken out into individual components that make up the 10 digits. That allows us to say what's in regular programs, what's in special services, what's in psychology, what's in all these various departments, and then further we can look at by account. What's 110, what's salaries, what's 272, right? All these individual levels at that, once we have that information. Also in this file, you'll note that on the original without details tab, column Q, all the way to the right, there's a column for 3-year average. Now, we've talked a lot about 3-year averages. We understand that given COVID and given, unique circumstances over the past few years, 3-year average might not be appropriate to use, but it's here as a barometer in case you want to look at it. Okay? From there, what I do is break it out into individual areas. First up is salaries. I have a separate spreadsheet on salaries that I also circulated to the board, so just, let's reference that one, and I'll do that after we get through this file. So let's table salaries for a moment. Vacant positions, same thing, and what I've learned, through my conversation with, our HR director last night is that although this is listed as vacant, it's actually not inclusive of all the vacant positions, which was news to me. The way the system works is that if there's a vacant position, and just call it, I'm just picking one, custodian full-time LMS for a salary, it's recognizing that one position, but there could be multiple of that same position, so 4 positions as an example, that are only being reflected here in the budget once. Okay, so our HR director
I see.
sent out a updated email, and I apologize, she sent it to me late this afternoon. I thought the board was copied on it, but you weren't. So she sent it this evening to you with updated vacancy within the district. So you all have that in your inbox. Then what I do is look at other areas. Insurance. This is how I knew last night that something was up with insurance, because it shows a 24, almost a 25% increase just by looking at lines 211 and 212, 211 being health insurance across the entire budget, 212 being dental insurance, right? It was reported that dental insurance should be about a 1.5% increase. It's showing about a 10% increase. Pretty small because of the total budget for dental, but if you look at health insurance, it's significantly more, and it's showing a 24% increase. Again, our HR director responded with some light items today. I don't understand. And so that's something that we need to talk about, certainly in preparation for tomorrow's meeting.
So part of that could be potentially how people are selecting their benefits year to year.
Could be. It could be additional enrollments. It could be
Right.
changes to family situations.
right.
Okay.
Absolutely, that's all part of it. Right? Absolutely, that's certainly rolling into this. Okay. Location summary is actually an important tab to walk through. And I'll make this one a little bit bigger. So I've done this in 2 ways. I broke the entire budget out, again, reconciling to the 24,638,000 budget as presented. And I've broken it out by essentially key budget location: Campbell, district-wide, Griffin, LMS, the SAU, and school board budgets. Here you get the picture of the entire budget, salaries and benefits included, for the last several years. The table on the bottom is the exact same thing, but stripped out with salaries and benefits. So it's just your core budget, non-salary and benefits. See that? So this bottom section here is the same as the top, but without the salary and benefits accounts. So this looks at the core spending outside of the 78%. And then I'm able to see, by looking at this, all right, what is materially different? All right, well, I see for this first one, fuel and electric is a main driver for this budget increase, and when you drill into it, it's showing a $164,000 increase. Okay, transportation is up. Fuel and electric for this is up, and I'm looking at 23 to 24, by the way. For LMS, we have the $363K lease payment, right, for the bond that was, and the work being performed, which is an increase. So you see some of the drivers, some of the material drivers, by looking at it in this light. Then we know electric and fuel is up, so there's a separate tab for electric and fuel. I think interesting what I see for electric and fuel is inconsistency in the percentage increase, so that's a question that I have. In some cases, I see a 175% increase. In some cases, it's a 106% increase, and this is just utilities electric. In some cases, it's a 46% increase.
So you're asking where they got the increased numbers?
How do we
because-
know, right? And can we just say, so in my Cutter Thoughts tab, the original tab, which we'll go back to, for lack of a better term, right?
Silly.
We all know, we all know it's more money.
Oh,
And I'm
absolutely.
not
Right.
disputing that. I'm not, right? And what I said was, if I double it, if I say it's a 100% increase, which is about right, based upon what we all pay,
Yeah.
there's still savings. There's still, in this case, $80,000 in savings over what's budgeted. And that's with me doubling our utilities from last year. Right, so that's a question that I have.
Do you want answers as we go, or?
Let me
keep
walk
going.
through it and then we'll
Yeah.
go back. Right.
Yeah, cause the more we can do today, the less
Yeah.
we have to do tomorrow.
Retirement, as Holly
Andrew, when
mentioned.
I, just on
Yeah.
on the
Maybe
electric,
we
so
should do it as we go. I feel like
Yeah.
there's a lot of
what I
stuff.
get is that. So that's the screen I'm looking
Yeah.
at.
Yeah.
So it's helpful to see there's something really there.
For what? Which tab are you on?
This is the electric tab, it's blank,
Oh,
there's
I'm
nothing in
seeing
it.
You can see it.
I can see it.
Yeah, I don't know, it comes up
I
blank.
see it.
So, so what I don't know is, when you, are you breaking that out by location?
Mine's blank too.
He is breaking out by
Do you
location.
guys have Excel downloaded on your laptop?
No, I don't have that
Well,
Excel
that could be
stuff.
it.
I don't think I do, but
Oh,
I
that-
am.
yeah, that's probably
Oh,
it.
I saved it. I saved.
did not save
I
it.
saved
Yeah, you
mine
have
and
to
I
save it and
opened
open
it
it in
as
Excel.
sheets.
Okay.
Oh, okay.
That I did not do.
Yeah.
But at any rate, are you doing that by location?
It is
it-
by location.
Yeah, so then to answer that question, is that what you want me to do?
Yes, please.
So behind this, how did Doug and I get the numbers that we plugged in? So we talked to Dick Henry. Dick Henry has another spreadsheet, and that shows actual energy use, kilowatt hours, gallons of oil, et cetera, for the last 5 years. So the problem is, it's not equivalent by location. So Campbell's a more efficient building than is the elementary school. So when you put the projection on to say, we use this many gallons at GMS compared to this many gallons at Campbell. Of course, you're using propane compared to oil, so those aren't exactly the same. That's why those things differ. So those are actual models based on the current projected cost of propane for Campbell, the current projected cost of oil at GMS, and that's why they differ. And Dick's spreadsheets are pretty sophisticated. We could share those with you, but there's
No, but I
there's
mean, this is-
backstory to all of that too.
Yeah, and I appreciate that detail. Obviously, I don't get that by looking at this in this way, and that's why it's important to have the
Ask
conversation.
questions, right.
Yes.
In my view, it's still appropriate to double it over current year, right? And it still leaves the district with, I believe, plenty of money based upon what is real and in the marketplace. Tell me if I'm wrong.
I will. Here's why. In the current budget, we used, we didn't actually increase from last year to the current budget, the one that we're in right now, because we didn't see the energy price increases on the horizon to the rate that they are. Let's talk electricity. We were at 6 cents a kilowatt hour initially, right? It went up to 11 cents, and now it's gone to
Last December.
last December,
December.
it went up to
We had
11,
budget.
that's doubling almost, because there's a point something in there. And then we locked in at 18 cents, almost 18, it's like 17.8, I think. And so that's a tripling of the original number, and we didn't include any of that in our current budget. So when I said we're already upside down in our energy budget, that's part of it, is that tripling of the rate. So Dick has told us, and this is downright scary, but it's not wrong with what you're hearing if you pay attention to Eversource. He's saying to budget at 45 cents. 45 cents, 8 times, right? 8 times the 6 cents that we were getting. So I worry that doubling isn't even gonna come close when the experts in the field are saying, you've already tripled, and you should prepare for tripling the triple, or, right? So,
I do see what you said, and thank you for highlighting that about the current year versus the previous year, right? Because I'll make this bigger so the board can see it as well, just in hard numbers. Scroll over here, right? You'll see 22 actual and 23 approved. The numbers are pretty darn close to one another. So that makes much more logical sense to me.
and by the way, this makes me sick to my stomach, because I'm like, oh, okay, so we missed this, and energy has escalated on us. And what's really,
All of us are worried about it in general, in our homes too.
well, yeah, we're all living that right now at home, and we've got the bigger problem at school. But the other point is, this is where the numbers at LMS are really paying dividends already, because we're budgeting less money at
see it.
LMS.
You see it 0, right here. Well,
Yeah, we're saving money at
it's 2 or
LMS.
0 from LMS.
Locking in at $95,000 as the total energy cost at LMS for the next 6 years on the PPA is a bargain. And, you know, it's not real savings, because it's cost avoidance savings, but we would have been budgeting at $225,000 at LMS, roughly. And we're not. because we have this project that's underway, so.
But you also have to balance that with our lease payment.
Correct.
That is correct.
Right, but it makes the lease payment, you understand why the lease payment is helpful, because you're getting all the fresh air, all the upgraded systems, all the other benefits that are coming with that project in that lease payment, and by the way, you're saving all that energy cost, so it really is showing itself to be worthwhile. I truly think, in the long run, people will understand why Campbell has to do something, but we're not there yet. People have to see this and understand it, and we have to be able to point back at the numbers and say, it absolutely saved in the long run, but we'll get there.
And I think it's great that your spreadsheet showed that there was more of an increase at the elementary school in electric than at the high school, because
That
what
makes
we're
sense.
able to do
Makes
was we
perfect
took
sense.
the September bill, which was our first bill after all the lighting, exterior, interior, and then with the kids in. So we took that and we took our kilowatt hours, and then we adjusted down all the kilowatt hours, moving forward. So so we weren't basing it off of the kilowatt hours that we were using before the high efficiency lighting went in. We brought those numbers down. Cause as we worked with Dick, one thing we wanted to make sure was like, it's gonna be real hard for everyone to look at these numbers go up by so much. So if we wanna have a discussion with people, we want a discussion on the price, not the amount of kilowatt hours or gallons. So let's make sure that kilowatt hours are where they should be. In case of the high school, it was going down.
Are we good with fuel?
Yes.
Okay. Retirement, not much to say here. It aligns exactly to what was presented last night, where our HR director noted a slight decrease. We see that in the numbers. Not much to say. Travel and conferences, pretty consistent, over 23 to 24. Not a whole lot there to discuss. My thought, and we have this conversation every year, is a 20% reduction. It's no different this year, and that's just a thought that I have.
I think a lot of times when you look at travel, a lot of it's mileage reimbursement.
Yeah.
And a lot of people just don't put in for it. Like I was at the elementary school today. I didn't put in for middle school today. I didn't put in for going there. I'm not gonna put in for mileage at all this year, most likely. So I think a lot of people are like me. So it's budgeted for because we can put in for it, but people just don't put in for it.
Yep. And again, 21 and 22 are not good indicators of actual, just because of COVID. Repairs and maintenance, same type of conversation where we actually heard a strategic priority is to increase or to continue focus on repairs and maintenance. What I'm seeing in the budget is it's actually down quite a bit, about $20,000 across the budget in its entirety.
So the explanation for that is it's a $20,000 cut at LMS, repairs and maintenance, because everything's under warranty there. So we looked at a $48,000 budget and said, cut 20 out of it because we're gonna be okay.
And again, you see that directly in the numbers. LMS went from 63 to 42. There's your 20 grand. So there's not a whole lot for me to talk about with repairs and maintenance. It's a pretty reasonable budget. Supplies, same thing, pretty flat. 391 last year to 392 this year. That with inflationary costs is pretty reasonable. Yeah, you might find, and I'm sure the budget committee will do their diligence in going page by page and looking for $500 here, $1,000 there. I'm not interested in doing that type of ancillary reductions. I'm looking for what's the material changes we can do to the entire budget to bring it down. Furniture and equipment, but just for your awareness, there was a conversation on new furniture. That budget's actually down. It went from 217 to 211 across the entire district. And then there's just a couple more here, and I'll highlight it. Miscellaneous, pretty flat. It's about 50 grand a year. It's no different this year. Technology is actually up about $60,000 or so on my Cutter summary tab. I highlighted some areas between last year and this year that appear to be new, so I'd like to get some thoughts on that. And I know we're having a technology presentation tomorrow, so that'll be helpful.
And he'll explain Cami and WeVideo and all those other things.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go Guardian, definitely.
The other piece is Chris kind of jumped in early last night because some of the technology lines got migrated to the school budgets, and the principals weren't totally ready to present. But he'll be there. He'll answer all of that for you.
school board, pretty flat, just another area of the budget. And then today, I was actually taking a look at the special education lines. And there's definitely some conversation that has to happen here, as it does every year.
I'm sorry, where is that?
I did this later today,
Okay.
so this isn't in,
Cause we haven't had that present, will you be asking these questions too
yeah,
during, yeah, good,
absolutely.
Good.
Absolutely.
So will you be able to send out the special education one like tomorrow at some point?
I can send out the updated file. I mean, this is a working document, right? We all received it. I'm still working on it. I'm still going through my analysis as well, in the interest of time.
Yep.
On special education for the board's awareness, the average that we typically spend, without transportation, this is not transportation specific, this is just special education, is 378, that's district-wide. And transportation isn't there, so my apology. District-wide, we're asking for $4.75 million. That's an increase from 4.58 over current year. 2022 actual was 4.2, 21 actual was 4.5. 3-year average across all of it is 4.28. In looking at the tuitions, I understand there's an increase, about 5% increase.
is one student for $132,000.
Yep.
No,
Is it more than one, is it
no, that was, when last year,
placement?
the, budget was cut by 150,000 in that area, so that's just bringing it back to actual. So actual wouldn't be all the way back up to that 150, but actual would,
132,
well, actually be up to that 132.
okay. Sorry to
If I-
hijack your presentation.
No, you're good. If I just look at transportation, because I know that's an area that the budget committee will always talk about, and they're gonna see exactly what I'm seeing, so it's good to have the conversation amongst the board. The average for just transportation, which is just rows 14 and 15 here, is 378,000. We're budgeting just over 500,000. And we understand that the special services director will come in and say it's based upon current needs, and it's just that's the same conversation every year. The reality is, and in my experience, is it's never been fully used. We budget for it, but it's never actually fully used. And look, when we have a budget like we do, we're gonna have to make difficult decisions. I'm not saying this is necessarily one the board will get behind, but I think it's worth at least talking about and considering. I do think it's about, even with a 10% increase over current year, there's still an $88,000 savings.
So I know Sophia will talk more about it
Yeah.
tomorrow. We were talking about a little bit about transportation, myself and her this afternoon as well. And there
Did you see my tab?
I did not see your
Oh,
tab.
okay.
No, so, because I was just kind of looking over the transportation, and it did go up
Cutter's comments.
much more in special education than it did with just our regular transportation.
So she'll have more specific.
she'll
So
have
the
more
regular,
more
was the
specific.
regular transportation 10 or 11% increase?
Regular transportation was a 3% increase
Oh,
for
was it
our
3%?
normal routes,
And that's contractual.
and that's contractual, and
Yes.
that is like, regular transportation is great for next year. Only going up 3% is unbelievable. What's gonna happen though is, next year is our last year of the contract, and it's gonna go up
And then,
a lot
Yes.
after that. I would assume that they're not coming back with another 3%,
yeah, okay.
so,
No.
yeah.
Interesting. She'll tell us
I know.
what her needs are,
Anchor.
specific but not too specific to cover.
Was there a comment?
But we own the buses at that point, don't we?
What are we talking about
Was there
over
a
here?
comment?
Was
We
there
own the
something?
buses?
No, I was talking about electric buses.
I thought we bought those buses,
No, so
No, they're
buses are
leased per
contracted out.
per student.
leases.
They're owned by
We-
us, but, sorry, go
They're,
ahead.
they're not owned by us, they're owned by
Per
First
student.
Student. We just said,
But the contract.
we're gonna sign a
included
new
new
contract with
buses.
you,
Okay.
we
Got
need
it.
buses that don't say Brooklyn on the side, and they did, they responded.
That's right, okay,
So-
got it.
That's right.
Just to clarify so we had put in for, there's federal money available for electric school buses. We applied for 4 of them. We were not selected as a recipient of that. The grant just came out. So the electric buses, fully paid for, are going into Henniker and Rumney. So, but we're still there's another round to come. It's basically a lottery system. They're just picking. We don't know exactly what the lottery pool looks like, but
I don't know how I feel about it.
Anyway.
Electric bus.
Well, you don't have to worry about
For
it.
free?
for free bus?
Yeah.
Free buses, yeah.
Free.
No, but with the solar array, it would have been free.
Plug them in at LMS.
We were gonna plug, that's exactly what we were gonna do.
yeah.
We were gonna plug them in
Interesting.
to the solar cell and it would be free.
But then we have to hire our own drivers.
No,
No, they
that
were,
was
First-
they were
first
first
the
student.
grant was through,
Yeah.
first student would actually own the bus, I guess, because
we
it
could
would
use
be,
it.
yes. But it would be our bus to use and free electrons from the roof.
So does that walkthrough help, at least kind of
What you
structure
did,
it?
it was excellent. I
Yeah.
really appreciate the time and effort you put into that.
So the next part of this is kind of the difficulty, which will happen tomorrow with the motions, right? I don't have a set number. I'd like to see it get down by $700,000, right? I don't know if it's possible. I don't know if we're even gonna get there. That's just pie in the sky idea based upon what I see. And that's across vacant positions. It's across, conferences and workshops, as I mentioned. We can talk about my thoughts of a 20% reduction. It's about a small reduction in technology, but again, pending the presentation tomorrow. It's also thinking about this health insurance and just trying to align that and sync that up with Holly and where we stand, because again, the way I see it still is about a 24-25% increase. The electric and fuel we talked about, I feel more comfortable with that, so there's always an attrition conversation, and then special education as a part of that as well.
I just wanna talk about the cutting the vacant positions. We have unfilled positions that are required by law that we cannot cut. We need to leave them open until we can find somebody, because every district I know is out of compliance with staff. Where my school's down 13 paras, I am a para and a teacher. But we need to fill those positions to
I think
beat the law.
So what about the custodians? I mean, and the paras, I saw 6 different paras, but now I know it could be more than
Holly's
6. that-
spreadsheet, if you look at it, it has the actual
Yeah.
numbers in it.
Do we know how
One she
many
just sent
paras are
tonight.
in that?
Yeah,
Yeah,
Oh,
I can't give you the
yeah.
number off the top of my
That's-
head, but it's,
So Andrew, with Holly's, does your, does the reduction of the vacant positions consider, does that you take into effect into account Holly's numbers that she sent out today?
So Holly sent out a spreadsheet. I have it. It doesn't, because we
Okay.
just got that. But Holly sent out a spreadsheet, and the number of vacant positions, the dollar amount was over $500,000. I don't remember the exact,
Okay.
right? Given that there are critical positions, given that, like, is 300 still the right number? Like, is it directionally right? I don't know. I think it is. Here's the thing I'm trying to balance, right? We're also going to the taxpayers and asking for a $500,000 land acquisition, right? On top of now, what's being proposed at the moment is a $1.4-ish million increase year over year. I understand costs increase. What's the priority of the board? Land? Is it budget? I don't think it can be both.
It has to
It
be
has to
both.
be both.
We
I
cannot
disagree with you.
sacrifice students.
I agree, but that's part of the conversation that I think, and that's part of the decision that this board needs to make.
so when you look at cuts to vacant positions, which positions are you looking at? Like, which ones do you think
All the vacant
not?
positions, what I assume.
No, I understand some of them are contractual. What I don't know is which ones are, which ones aren't. So I need that, we need to have that
Need that piece of
conversation,
information.
right?
Right, and we need
All
to
of this
know-
is just
I'd like to
an
have all the
idea.
janitors hired too, stuff like that.
But-
Interesting.
But you're from the Cutter thoughts. So just so I don't know if they're showing it. Cutter comments. Sorry, I'm
Got a
leaving
better name for the tab? I don't know.
It's a lovely tab.
thoughts with
Yes.
Andrew.
From the Cutter thoughts, it looks like you're proposing a cut of 305,000.
Yeah, based upon what we knew at that moment, understanding that will change based upon an understanding of what is actually contractual versus what's not.
I mean, you certainly can make the motion, and we can certainly talk about it tomorrow, and we'll have those conversations tomorrow.
That's it?
From where I'm
Yeah.
coming from, I can't see how that would at all work.
So just so you know where that number, I mean, that's a random number, 305,142, right? So that is the original vacant positions of 362,978, which we already know is not correct, because Holly sent out an update of this, minus the special education line, minus the,
Speech pathologist?
no, the teacher special education for 57,836.
Oh, I see.
Right, so I took the sum, subtracted out the 57,836, and got the 305, 142. That's where that came from. But again, some of those other positions might be contractual. I don't know that, and so I need that guidance.
Make sure I've got this.
Wouldn't paras be, I mean, paras, if those, maybe they're not contractual, but they are required.
IEP driven, which is a lot.
Yeah.
But again, they've been vacant, right?
Yep.
And we've
It's
been
the same
filling
thing
them.
as an unfilled position, like a police officer, which is why I said I think we're opening ourselves up with that motion.
But it's patchwork. What they've been doing is taking a sub to fill in here for 45 minutes to provide services so that they're able to do this, and then switching that sub over to this child so that they're able to get their it's been patchwork. They've made it work, but that's not,
Ideal.
assuming we could get the pool, that's not how we want it to be in the future. That is not ideal.
I agree.
And
I
by
don't
the way, the
disagree with
town
you.
can carry money over,
And again,
so, and the
we have to
position
make
there was
difficult
unfilled
decisions. What's
already.
it gonna be?
I don't think we need to choose between those two. I have faith in the town that the
We're all
land is a priority and our kids are a priority. We cannot, I cannot support a cut like that to this budget.
Yeah.
But I'm willing to hear what you have to say. I'm willing to have the conversation.
And we're all entitled to our own opinions, thoughts. and
Absolutely,
Yep,
absolutely.
respectfully.
Andrew, if I may, so the
Yeah.
red number, the 30,
5142, yes.
so when I click on the vacant tab,
Yep,
is it the sum of that column?
correct. So
Minus,
Minus the teacher.
the sum of this column is 362, 978, and if I
Okay, so
say
this actually shows it, right?
equals
So
minus this,
So it's that
305,
times-
142.
that's how you got it,
You,
perfect.
your calculation would actually eliminate the part-time PE teacher.
But again, not knowing what's contractual, that's all just part of the conversation we need to have that would be obviously reduced out of this.
I'm just really glad that you presented this tonight, cause I'm the type of person, I do like to think about things
Yeah.
and chew
You
things.
need time to
and-
process, I
and
agree.
analyze them,
You should
so
think
I
about it.
very much appreciate this.
And Tara, that's why I was suggesting we schedule another meeting, cause I was afraid this was gonna happen tomorrow night.
Yeah.
And we
Right.
were
Then I
not,
wouldn't have time to think it through.
Absolutely.
I do appreciate it as well,
Yeah,
knowing your thoughts. Now I need to mull that over and I'll be ready for tomorrow night. And look at my
yeah.
flip book. I prefer paper. You prefer computer.
So if I add it all up, and again, I know a lot of this will change, but if I add it all up right now, I'm at, well, this is 967, 500.
and was your goal to reduce it by 700 or to get to 700?
To reduce the,
The 1.2 down to reduce by 700
That's correct.
to be at 500 in the
And
budget.
it's 1.4.
1.3.
But looking at the
Oh, I
numbers.
thought it was 1.3, 1.2 something, it's a high 1.29.
Sorry, but looking at the numbers, you said you were a little bit more comfortable with the electric and the fuel, which is the
Yeah,
212
right.
and the 49.
So I think this'll, no, well, so.
Those may change.
The electric and the fuel was the 49 and 34. You
Okay.
know, I think the explanation tonight was reasonable. So those go away.
Okay.
All right, that gets backed out.
So it's about 1.3 million. So 1,309,647.
Right, the health insurance, I fully anticipate changing based upon Holly's explanation that she'll provide the board tomorrow.
So the harder conversations
Right,
are going to
so
be the top shelf.
Maybe this gets zeroed out too. Right, cause I already know that there's gonna be a conversation about vacant positions, and this will likely change. So,
I appreciate you sharing it with us tonight.
So I think when anyone looks at a $1.3 million increase, you know, kind of analyzing that and having thoughts about it makes sense. That anyone else on the board kind of have thoughts like, as far as things that they're looking at, or so other people can kind of think about it over tonight too, or or we can have the right information for you tomorrow
I
as well.
had this conversation, I look at the 1.3 number, but then I subtract out from that contractual obligations, the LEA contract and the LSSA contract. We have no choice over that. The voters voted for that. So I would take that 1.3 and that's there. Electric and fuel, energy costs are what they are. We have no choice over that. So I would take that off. That's not within our control. As I kind of go through and peel back all of the layers, I don't know that that number is actually 1.3 million. And I think you did that with you were gonna email us the summary
deck.
sheet, but I remember there was a slide last night that showed when you take out these things, and health insurance costs was one of them that was huge,
Yeah. So
hugely
it's
up.
actually over 1.3 million.
Yeah.
So the reason why the budget's not up
Right, it was
more is because of the
1.5.
positions
Yeah.
that were cut. It's never great or easy cutting
1.8,
positions.
right?
It was
1.48.
1.48
With all of it added in?
with,
No.
no, with the major larger increases,
If we-
not everything added in, but
So with the proposed reductions that were presented last night, if those were not taken, in addition to the increase of the 1.3, you'd be at about $1.8 million year-over-year increase. Correct?
At 1.48,
Yes.
I thought you said.
Now you know why we cut.
I know.
Because we looked at that and we're like, you've got to be kidding me, there's no way, what can we do? So those proposed cuts were necessary to get it into something that had some offset to these drivers that are just built in.
So if you can send around that slide again, that would be helpful
yeah.
for me
Yeah, the
as
summary.
I'm processing tomorrow and
we'll get it
thinking
out.
things through. That would be helpful. Thank you.
All right,
Also-
I appreciate the board allowing me the time to present.
I appreciate you taking the time to put that all together. That must have taken hours.
I also, put it in there, I guess, yeah. So I was in that email
Yeah.
that was blank, and I just, right above it, it says open with Sheets, and I opened it with Google Sheets, it interacts perfectly fine.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
you don't have to have Excel.
I don't have Excel either,
And
yeah.
Good.
there are times where Excel is necessary, they keep telling me, but not on this one.
But you're not going there yet?
Can we also get, just a summary of the position changes? We talked about a lot of shifting, of,
Repositioning.
reorganization,
Right.
repositioning.
So I have some detail, we have a lot of detail on that.
Yeah.
I'd like to do that in non-public though, because it has names attached to it,
Yes.
and I feel like
Yeah.
Okay,
that's a non-public
okay,
discussion.
that's
Okay.
fine. But I do wanna make sure I have that straight in my head before we make any decisions.
We all set? Did I approve the meeting, the minutes?
Any other school board comments?
I think, yes, we approved the minutes, yeah.
School board comments. So we've had all kinds of stuff going on at our school. So between school dances, between sports, Lady Lynx over, I got to watch the girls soccer team. They were amazing. I didn't even have a kid and I was screaming and lost my voice, yelling so loud. Volleyball. So it's been a really good sports run. How did
High
the
school,
boys-
we're not talking about
Okay,
it.
we're not talking about anything else.
Soccer.
Okay.
Volleyball and football, moving on.
Okay.
Girls volleyball.
I'd also like just to recognize academics and all the students who are excelling as we close the first quarter, I believe, tomorrow.
And the induction of the students into the
National
National Honor
Honor
Society last evening.
Absolutely.
And parent-teacher conference signups.
Yep.
I have 12.
And the kids that are working really hard on the Wizard of Oz, I think
We're all looking
they're gonna
forward to that
be,
Yeah.
that's gonna be an amazing show. I can't wait for that, so.
Thanks to Mr. Harrison for his help in leading that.
Yeah, I've been roped in, but it's incredible to
Are there
see
gonna
what,
be enough shows?
Four
For everybody?
shows.
Four
Three,
sho-
four?
4 shows. Friday night, a matinee and an evening show on Saturday, and then a Sunday
You
matinee.
gotta get the tickets out there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes, those will
It's
be.
gonna sell out.
Yeah.
Oh, absolutely, all
I
4
know.
shows.
We
They're
hope
gonna
it
be in
does.
advance, right?
I am not in charge of tickets.
How
I'm
many
in
people are
charge of
gonna,
painting.
more people are gonna show up than
So,
can get tickets.
We have another set building workshop on Saturday.
Sooner the better.
Well, lots of good stuff happening.
it's very
Scarecrow
exciting.
Jamboree, and there's
Yes.
just so much going on,
Yeah.
so.
That was awesome. I got to take 2 hours
Yeah,
off from work
that was
and
great.
walk through the Scarecrow Jamboree. It was awesome.
Huge thank you to all of our administrators and staff for all they're doing, cause the kids are having a good time.
Yeah.
Yeah, and thanks to PTO as well for the schedule.
Yeah, absolutely.
For the Pumpkin Fest.
Pumpkin Fest.
So I'm going to a lot of other meetings, so unfortunately I'm not able to go to a lot of that fun stuff that I was able to go through earlier in the year, but after January I will get back into that.
Excellent.
Did we
No.
cover off of the manifest?
Non-public. Right.
Non-public.
We did finish the manifest of this, let me just double check. Nope,
Yeah,
I looked at this.
Gotta sign those.
Yeah, I got it. Sitting there.
The manifest is all set.
Michelle, the vote for the capital improvement plan, was that 500?
Yeah,
Yes.
I
yes,
believe it was, thank
was.
you.
So I checked back in with Ann, because Ann is the one who produces the manifest, and I checked, I said, you know, is the new timing fine? She said, yep. So she said, everything's just kind of adjusted from her down to, you know, people at the schools, but everyone's now fine. It's been seamless on their part, so, which is good.
Great, she's
Yeah.
awesome.
And it's nice to see it in advance. You know,
Very helpful.
Yep, that's great. Yeah, she does a lot of good work towards
She
it, so to
does.
make it transparent for, yep, so.
Motion to go into non-public.
Yeah, I'll make a motion to go into non-public session.
Second?
All in favor?
Yes.
Aye. Opposed, abstained.
Did you already read the thing?
You need to
I'm
read.
reading, okay, thank you, sorry. The dismissal, promotion, or compensation of any public employee or the disciplining of such employee or the investigation of any charges against him, unless the employee affected has a right to a meeting and requests that the meeting be open, in which case the request shall be granted. The hiring of any person as a public employee, matters which, if discussed in public, would likely affect adversely the reputation of any person other than a member of the body or agency itself, unless such person requests an open meeting.
Yes.
Yes,
Yes.
yes. We are
Thanks,
in
everybody.
non-
Have a good night. Sorry I was late.